Chapter 966. I punched the children from prestigious families who had been resurrected once again felt like they had just woken up from a dream, finally regaining a part of their true strength. Compared to their lifeless and dreamlike state just moments ago, although their bodies still emitted a green light, as the chosen ones by the White Lotus secret treasure, they finally displayed their corresponding abilities. Especially the 5 individuals from the White Lotus Sword Palace, who were the first to receive the favor of the White Lotus secret treasure, their strength progressed rapidly and became the backbone of the group of children from prestigious families this time. Ranking 10th, there was Russell, known as the Broken Iron Sword. Ranking 9th, there was Wang Qi, known as the Steel Diamond Sword. Ranking 8th, there was Bai Yun, known as the White Light Sword. Ranking 7th, there was Xia Huanjin, known as the Bloody Light Sword. And ranking 4th, there was Qin Su, known as the Heaven Child Sword. Half of the past top 10 geniuses of the White Lotus Sword domain gathered here, and this group of children from prestigious families can be said to be the framework they formed together. In the family of Xian Yuan Xiaoyu, and in the family of Shi Men Lu Yun, didn't like to eat candy. So they formed a team together and went on an adventure. Yin Su, who was once one of the 3 seats, using the 100 Ghost Sword, has disappeared and no one knows where she is. Road, who was also one of the 3 seats, using the Dragon Shield Sword, has formed a team from the gods' domain of the mighty dragons to take on a challenge. Xiao Ling, who was once the strongest among the 3 seats, is now working together with Yun Shi. After regaining some of their intelligence, the top 10 experts from the White Lotus Sword Palace finally showed their talent in swordsmanship. And their once scrapped spirit weapons have transformed into cursed god weapons, similar to the ones used by Child Sanquan and Child Yunhe, due to some unknown power. Blow, wind. A large amount of flesh and blood emerged on the broken iron sword, and Russell swung the most crazy and powerful sword of his life. The sword winds that can cut through steel converged together, forming a continuously rotating tornado that swept towards Demon Worm Sutton. Steel Diamond, fly. The excited Steel Diamond Sword Wang Qi separated the hundreds of steel diamond pieces from his god weapon for the first time and felt the sword sound for the first time. The spinning and dancing steel diamonds turned into intertwined shadows, targeting Demon Worm Sutton. When you see my sword, it will be your end. The sword disappeared from White Cloud's hand, and he vanished from the battlefield. I am the chosen one by destiny. As the only true strong warrior to possess the ancient god weapon, Qin Su had regained the most rationality, and the transformation of his Heaven Child sword was the most powerful. The more you gaze into the abyss, the more it gazes back at you. The stronger you are, the greater the changes you gain from eating candy, and the higher the level of madness. Although it seemed that Qin Su had regained his rationality, he was actually more insane than before, with text and images appearing in his vision that didn't belong to this world. That was a distorted representation of the world's true nature, whispers from indescribable beings. The more you see, the more you understand, the harder it becomes to break free. Despite being crazy, Qin Su felt better than ever before, not even realizing that his head had mysteriously grown larger. He finally caught a glimpse of the secrets of the Heaven Child sword. The Emperor, superior to all things, the will of the Emperor cannot be defied by mere mortals. If the ruler wants the subject dead, the subject has no choice but to die. In the name of the Heaven Child Qin Su, I declare you sentenced to death. Holding the Heaven Child sword, a halo appeared around Qin Su's head and he wore half of a yellow robe. By donning the yellow robe, he was forcibly ascending to the position of the Emperor. To ascend is to reach the heavens, but to fall is to lose everything, even one's family. Under normal circumstances, it would be impossible for Qin Su to unleash the power of the Heaven Child sword. Destiny did not choose him, just like how the dragon vein of the Great Xia acknowledged Xia Jie as the crown prince of the Great Xia and bestowed upon him the legacy of the Black Flame Dragon armor. Qin Su lacks the qualities of a person, especially when compared to those who currently possess the great Qin sword domain. The people live in peace and prosperity, but Qin Su, as a foreign exchange student, has no connection to it. Qin Su has never possessed either of the two essential elements for mastering the Heaven Child sword, destiny and virtuous character. The god weapon, Heaven Child sword, is a heritage only accessible to the most esteemed individuals. It is just like the 100 Ghost sword, a separate form of the Ghost sword, and serves as a fraction of the true imperial god weapon of the great Qin sword domain. Qin Su is not even the crown prince within the great Qin royal family, let alone capable of unleashing the true power of the imperial god sword. Forcibly seizing the position of the Heaven Child is only going to cause a violent backlash from the dragon vein of the great Qin sword domain, leading to complete destruction. However, the current Qin Su is not the same as before. He has ascended. He wanted to become the ruler, but not just any ruler of the great Qin sword domain, something else entirely. The contaminated Heaven Child sword pushed Qin Su to a different position. In a daze, Qin Su found himself standing on an ancient altar surrounded by strange creatures that resembled octopuses. These creatures had constantly moving tentacles and made strange sounds like ya-ya. Ya-ya. Qin Su heard it. He heard the voice of destiny. You will become a king. Yes, I am a king, carrying the honor of a king. Look, all these intelligent beings around me, aren't they all my people? Everyone loves me and I love everyone. Even Qin Su has obtained virtues. Foam spilled from his mouth, and in the midst of his laughter, Qin Su put on his yellow robe. However, the embroidered pattern on this robe was not a real dragon, but a colossal creature that reached out its tentacles to explore countless worlds. Well, this can be considered as completing the coronation process of the Heaven Child sword. Although the fate he obtained did not come from the dragon veins, but from it. The people who live in his kingdom are not humans, but a group of deep-sea creatures. However, the contaminated Heaven Child sword truly acknowledged Qin Su. Today is the day he ascends to the throne. By drawing this Heaven Child sword that makes a yeah and yeah sound, he becomes the supreme being. As the Heaven Child, he possesses the qualification to give orders to the world. Who dares to defy the fate that belongs to me? Wielding the divine sword of the Heaven Child, Qin Su's momentum skyrocketed. A wave of black energy instantly descended upon the head of Demon Worm Sudden, causing all the lifeless aura around Demon Worm Sudden to tremble. The black antennae wavered uncertainly, and a disdainful look appeared in the eyes of Demon Worm Sudden. The black spikes behind it exploded. The first strike of destruction. The earth trembled and shook as a powerful gust of wind swept through, creating a massive crack on the ground. Flashing red and black lights erupted, causing an earthquake-like shockwave. The techniques of the Iron Sword Wind, Steel Diamond Reaping, White Light Assassination, and Divine Punishment meant nothing to Demon Worm Sudden. With one punch, the world fell silent. If one punch wasn't enough, then let's seriously throw another punch. Chapter 967, The Legendary Sword. The Insect Clan doesn't believe in destiny, mysticism, or the orders of emperors. Using absolute strength and overwhelming numbers, the Insect Clan crushes everything in its path. When it comes to Demon Worm Sudden, it doesn't matter what kind of divine skills or god weapon powers you have. One punch is all it takes. The first devastating blow struck Qin Su, who had just put on a yellow robe. It pierced his heart, shattered his body, and even sent the twisted Heaven Child sword soaring into the sky. No one could stop this punch. In Demon Locust suit-wearing Sudden's eyes, there was no one here who could fight back. Swords broke, arrows snapped, and blood splattered as the recently revived aristocratic camp turned into unrecognizable piles of debris. Demon Worm Sudden stood atop the ground, with a constant supply of regenerating thorns pouring out from behind him, feeding into Sutton's demon locust suit and forming a massive army of insects. This monster is too strong. Child Yun-hee couldn't even imagine how many sacrifices it would take to match this field. If I reach my full potential, I won't lose to it either. Karan bit down on his wrist, feeling the ancestral power in his boiling blood. It's okay, it's not over yet. Child Sanquan tried to appear calm, but the slight trembling in his feet betrayed his true feelings. There's no way to escape. With this kind of monster around, the aristocratic camp was certainly on track to be completely annihilated. Oh, and I have a special move too, a double special move. Child Yun-hee's eyes sparkled with confidence in his own team for no reason. Quick, release it. Karan was even more excited than Yun-hee, with his blood boiling. Where do I have a double special move? Special moves are not as easy as picking vegetables. They have long cooldowns, you know. Drip. 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 More green raindrops fell. The green clouds in the sky slowly descended, and one after another, thin green threads emerged from the wreckage on the ground. Even the devastating blow from Demon Worm Sutton couldn't completely destroy these resilient little things. Now I don't have to waste any more time. Demon Worm Sutton watched the falling clouds and cracked a smile. This thing is the root of all evil, and even it doesn't understand what it is. However, now the truth is finally revealed, it's the end of the road. Let it see what mysterious figure is hiding behind this group of green little people. One by one, the green threads that exist within the noble camp started to gather together, as if there were incredibly skillful hands weaving something. At first, it was just a blurry outline, almost like a 3-year-old child's knitted doll. Gradually, this doll took on a human-like form, and its fleshly outline started to become more real. It was an epic that people didn't remember, a hero destroyed by tragedy, and remains forgotten by time. Covered in a dismal shade of green, even so, the sturdy body refused to submit, even though it was bound by countless chains. Its true name had long been devoured by the abyss, but it didn't bow its head. Every nerve, every muscle was corroded by the green flames. Memories were erased, forgotten by history and the people. This was a complete loss of the qualifications for legend, a forgotten, nameless hero. Once upon a time, there was a hero who possessed half the power of a god. They accomplished many great feats and were praised by countless people. However, after their death, they transformed into an ancient evil entity. They devoured the power of countless souls and eventually fell into a city beneath the sea, where they were chained in the deepest abyss. Ha! The ancient, unnamed hero opened their eyes. Their body was filled with a bloodthirsty rage, wild long red hair, and magical runes engraved on their skin, which began to awaken one by one. They had no knowledge of their past or their former glory. After losing everything, all that remained was their instinct for battle and a wild, bloodthirsty power that had been corrupted by the abyss. Only the battlefield could satisfy this monster, for they no longer belonged to the realm of humanity. Once a hero among heroes, now a monster among monsters. The hero, once hailed as a demigod, bore a tragic magic sword known as the Godslayer. At this moment, it had become an uncontrollable force of destruction. As a hero, they were an epic-level powerhouse. As a monster, he was also the craziest and most powerful monster. The war apostle who entered into a contract with Su. Soul returns to the soul. Blood returns to the blood. You are the king of kings, the ruler who tramples everything. In the name of Su, return from that world. Whispers from the depths of the sea echoed around the ancient ruler, awakening the power within this revitalized body. Who am I? The red-haired berserker roared and drew out his sword. On this sword, there were hundreds of densely engraved ancient language magic runes. Compared to Yunshi obtaining the enhanced Mist Ghost Sword, it was like a toy. Simple increase in values from ancient language magic runes, strength +1, enhancement limit 20 times. Strength +2, enhancement limit 20 times. Strength +3, enhancement limit 20 times. Sword damage +1, enhancement limit 20 times. Sword damage +2, enhancement limit 20 times. Damage of the sword increased by 3, can be strengthened up to 20 times. An ancient magic rune that enhances sword attacks, increases sword swinging speed by 1%, can be strengthened up to 20 times. Increases sword strength by 1%, can be strengthened up to 20 times. An ancient magic rune that increases damage against specific races, Lizardfolk Slayer, increases damage against lizardfolk by 3%, can be strengthened up to 99 times. Undead Slayer, increases damage against undead creatures by 3%, can be strengthened up to 99 times. Beast Slayer, increases damage against beasts by 3%, can be strengthened up to 99 times. Fairy Vanquisher, increases damage against fairy creatures by 3%, can be strengthened up to 99 times. Magician Vanquisher, increases damage against magicians by 3%, can be strengthened up to 99 times. An ancient magic rune that imbues extraordinary power, Sword Master's Secret Technique, doubles critical strike rate. Plasma Orb releases an electric ball that deals critical damage to all creatures. The hero with red hair had a magical sword that was used to defeat evil gods. When using the sword, his maximum magical power was halved but his life force tripled. He had a strong body that made him immune to most control magic and gave him extra protection. If he was injured but not killed, he could heal within 10 seconds due to his super fast regeneration. This magical sword was known as the Magic Sword plus 257, representing the 257 times it had been enhanced. Chapter 968, The Fury of the Berserker. The red-haired berserker, surrounded by green flames, regained consciousness after death and held his head. He couldn't remember who he was, why he had a sword that had been enhanced 257 times, or why he felt so angry. The green flames engulfing his entire body felt like a curse penetrating his very bones, destroying all of his wisdom and turning him into a complete berserker. The angrier she got, the more the violent power in her body boiled uncontrollably and couldn't be stopped. Once a glorious symbol of epic, the magic sword created with the goal of killing the gods, couldn't save the ancient hero who had lost both glory and wisdom. The nameless hero, who had lost everything, could only watch with red eyes as the cloaked girl who woke him up screamed unintelligibly. "Fight for me, my disciple." Sue calmly sat on the shoulders of the red-haired warrior, who would destroy everything if he lost control. His fingertips still had traces of green thread. "Why?" The red-haired warrior extended his huge hand, fiercely grabbing Sue by the throat. On the girl's pale neck, there was a deadly red mark from being choked, as if the petite body would be crushed by the raging warrior in the next second. "Yaw! Yaw! Yaw!" Sue hummed a song that could make humans see things they couldn't see before. It was a song of praise to ancient gods, a call with unbelievable magical power. Come into my deep sea. Spread the legend, sing the song, of those ancient gods. They arrived long before humans existed, watching over this race, indescribable beings. Sue, who is gentle and kind, caring so much for humans. Eat delicious candy, become Sue's companion. Ah. You are. The red-haired warrior squeezed Sue's neck, his muscles twitching, his eyes becoming confused. Gradually, Sue's figure became familiar to him, but even though it was so familiar, he couldn't even say the name. It seemed that simply uttering that name would lead to an irreversible end. Can you hear me, my disciples? Sue chuckled softly as she placed a sticky, sweet black candy into the mouth of the red-haired warrior. All of this went unnoticed, unseen by anyone. Whether it was from the perspective of Demon Worm Sudden or the evil god trio, the bloodied red-haired warrior was merely clutching at air and making random angry roars. It wasn't until his mouth twitched and his body, which had been contorting non-stop, stabilized and gradually began to resemble a human. However, how could a human possess such twisted muscles that were intertwined like countless eels, along with green lines appearing on their skin? Releasing her grip slowly, the red-haired warrior's confused gaze shifted towards their opponent, Demon Worm Sudden. Finally, you've appeared. You are the real enemy. Sudden, the demon worm, was also excited. There's no point in just killing a bunch of weaklings, it gets boring after a while. Roar! Roar! The red-haired warrior's mouth twisted as if he was placing something on his shoulder, and then he gripped the terrifying magic sword plus 257. However, he didn't use the magic sword to attack others. Instead, he directly stabbed it into his own shoulder, causing a large amount of blood to splash out. Even though his bones were surrounded by green flames, his blood still flowed red. It was the remnants of the bloodline of a king within his body. Even though his royal name had long been forgotten by history. He. The red-haired warrior, empowered by the ancient magic runes engraved on his magic sword, laughed loudly and without hesitation, charged straight towards Demon Worm Sudden, who was even larger than himself. You are the opponent I've been looking for, exclaimed Demon Worm Sudden, raising his black iron fist in excitement. Suddenly, the first black spike reappeared on his back and burst open, releasing a surge of hot red and black energy. The first strike of destruction. The red-haired warrior also threw a punch, but this punch contained the power of ancient language magic. Plasma orb, go! Hundreds of electric balls exploded in an instant, creating a small sun-like appearance at the center of the battlefield. The second strike of annihilation. The second spike burst open, unleashing the terrifying ability of the Demon Locust King technique. A red and black energy flow, twice the size of the first strike, shot out from behind Demon Worm Sudden. The power of this strike was twice as strong as the first strike of destruction. The red-haired warrior was pushed back by the sudden increase in power, and more plasma orbs were released from his fists, ruthlessly pounding against Demon Worm Sudden's Demon Locust suit. If it weren't for the super-strong defense of the Demon Locust suit, this round of plasma spheres would have been enough to roast Demon Worm Sudden. The devastating third strike, shouted Demon Worm Sudden with a high-pitched voice. This was the maximum output that the temporarily condensed Demon Locust suit could unleash, reaching 4 times the destructive power of the first strike. With a stream of red and black light, Demon Worm Sudden and the red-haired warrior soared into the sky, reaching thousands of meters high in an instant, as if they were about to break through the heavens. If the opponents were those aristocratic children, just the shockwaves caused by the two of them right now would be enough to completely annihilate them. The red-haired warrior also roared, giving Demon Worm Sudden the strongest response. He spread his hands apart, embracing the spiky Demon Locust suit of Demon Worm Sudden, and then pulled with all his might. Hiss! Demon Worm Sudden's chest was torn open, revealing a clearly non-human exoskeleton structure within. The red-haired warrior in a frenzy mode tore open Demon Worm Sudden's chest with both hands, and then pulled apart forcefully. Demon Worm Sudden, along with the incomplete Demon Locust suit, was torn in half, while the red-haired warrior's severely crushed head from the third strike by Demon Worm Sudden visibly began to regenerate at an incredible speed. This is one of the characteristics bestowed upon the red-haired warrior by the divine slaying magic sword, super speed regeneration. No matter how fatal the injury, as long as they are not dead, they can recover within 10 seconds. Compared to Demon Worm Sudden, the red-haired warrior, fused with the divine slaying magic sword, has a higher constitution and stronger strength. In the battle between monsters, the victory went to the stronger monster and the battle ended. A large number of illusionary green crystals floated in the air, which was the reward given to the red-haired warrior for breaking through the hidden level. However, the red-haired warrior didn't even bat an eyelash at these illusionary green crystals. The reason is quite simple. It's because his magic sword needs mithril as material for reinforcement, not crystals. Chapter 969, The Gates of Ghosts, Did We Win? Child Sanquan gazed in astonishment as he tore apart Demon Worm Sudden with his bare hands. The red-haired berserker fell heavily to the ground. With a sharp magic short sword piercing his shoulder, it was hard to tell if he was a swordsman or a berserker. More green threads of rain fell. The aristocratic camp, which had been completely defeated 3 times by Demon Worm Sudden, resurrected once again at full health. However, each time they resurrected, a strange aura grew stronger on their bodies, indicating that this kind of resurrection came at a price. Sanquan, your special move is amazing. Yunhee patted Child Sanquan on the shoulder, looking very pleased. Yeah, if only we had more time, I could have developed even further. Karan licked the blood from his wrist. The boss, Demon Worm Sudden, in the hidden level, was defeated, and the remaining army of crystal monsters, numbering in the tens of thousands, could not resist the advancement of the zombie army of noble descendants. They were quickly wiped out. The second team to break through Crystal Creek Valley made it through. In the same Crystal Creek Valley, a light blue leader bee was flying, releasing countless ice blue bullets. This was a trial in Crystal Creek Valley that triggered a killing value of 100,000. The team challenging this trial now consisted of only 2 people. Initially, when the team entered this level in Crystal Creek Valley, there seemed to be more than a dozen people, with everything from logistics to tanks. Unfortunately, when the killing value reached 100,000, a sudden barrage of ice blue bullets wiped out the entire team, leaving only these 2 people now. However, the leader of the team didn't seem to be bothered at all. She didn't even draw her sword, but simply extended her fingertips to summon more subordinates to command. These were one creepy creature after another. Ghosts. Water spirits. Tongue puller. Red giant demon. Zombie general. Flying white-haired corpse. Like the gates of hell being opened, a constant flow of ghosts emerged from the gate of the yellow spring behind the girl, resisting the overwhelming barrage. The archer in red behind her calmly drew her black longbow, shooting out one transparent spiral sword after another. The crystal bees struck by these spiral arrows instantly burst apart, taking out all the surrounding crystal bees within a 10-meter radius. As more and more ghosts emerged from the gate of the yellow spring, their levels and strength increased. Even white ghosts, as powerful as a hero ranked, appeared. The tide of battle began to shift towards the side that summoned these creatures. This is the true power of the 100-Ghost Sword, the power that connects the mortal world and the underworld. By unleashing the power of the 100-Ghost Sword, the gate to the yellow spring would open. The creatures from the underworld would come rushing without any need for sacrifices. The energy from the mortal world alone would attract them. In a way, the 100-Ghost Sword is a cursed god weapon. Anyone who wields it would become tainted by the essence of the yellow spring, turning into something inhuman. 100, 200. The red-clad archer, skilled in recording data, diligently noted down the years of the emerging ghosts from the gate of the yellow spring. The longer they exist, the older they become, and the stronger their powers. This is an undeniable truth in the underworld. And when 100 years are the dividing line, there will start to appear ghostly creatures with hero-ranked strength like humans. In front of them, most are tragically killed by accidents, their vengeful spirits lingering in the underworld, unable to be reincarnated or pass away, ultimately becoming powerful ghostly creatures. In life they were hero-ranked, and even in death they possess abilities far beyond ordinary people, growing stronger as the underworld energy within them increases. Compared to the intelligent beings living in the endless gods' domains, there are more ghostly creatures dwelling in the world of the deceased, with a higher probability of giving birth to powerful ghostly creatures. Humans who are not strong enough and lack sufficient obsession are not qualified to become ghostly creatures after death. Ghostly spirits who can awaken in the underworld in a sinister form, there are no weak ones. Among them, there may even arise super ghostly creatures that are on par with the ancient races in the real world. It's ironic that humans are considered the most average race in the endless gods' domains when they are alive, but they have the highest probability of turning into ghosts. Many seemingly ordinary humans become stronger after death. Freed from the constraints of their bodies, they can develop unimaginable powers as ghosts. The ghost sword is a magical sword that can control ghosts, especially those who were once humans. When the gate of the Yellow Spring opens and countless ghosts emerge, everyone can understand the terrifying nature of the ghost sword. The scale of the gate of the Yellow Spring that is currently open is only less than 1/10 of the true and complete gate of the Yellow Spring. It is only at the level of 100 ghosts. "It's almost done," said Ziyuan, the owner of the gate of the Yellow Spring, after killing tens of thousands of ghosts. Finally, she drew her god weapon. The 100 Ghost sword represents a sword that can control the spirits of 100 ghosts. After sacrificing tens of thousands of ghost creatures, Crystal Creek Valley has completely transformed into a haunted place. Now, this place has become the main stage for the 100 Ghost sword. Yes, that's right. The archer dressed in red, called Yunhai, opened his black longbow and now held a pair of red and black swords. Running amidst the barrage, the swords danced in the air. The red and black lights constantly reflected and diverted the icy blue barrage with freezing soul energy. With his eyes wide open, he saw the leader bee that was different from all the other bees. "Kill it. Come. I'll open the door for you." Ziyuan swung the 100 Ghost sword in her hand, summoning the first, millennial-level ghost using the sacrificed spirits of tens of thousands of ghosts. It was a 1,000-legged, 1,000-eyed centipede, one of the ghost kings deep in the underworld. The door of the underworld, which was only 1/10 the size, could barely contain its massive body. After a while, it squeezed out and greedily stared at the army of crystal bees in front of it. In the next moment, the entire battlefield was divided by dazzling divine lights. The Ghost King possessed the power of 1,000 eyes, releasing 1,000 beams of light that could kill souls. In just 1 second, it instantly killed all the crystal bees and grass spirits. Swords danced through the air, and despite being an archer, Yunhai joined forces with Ziyuan to successfully achieve the feat of killing the leader bee without much effort. "Let's keep moving forward," said Yunhai, combining his red and black swords to form a longbow. He looked at Ziyuan, who was comfortably staying among the shadows. She was no longer human, was she? Chapter 970, Trials of the Second Stage. The central area of the sword, changed by the White Lotus secret treasure. The branches of sacred tree Linjia spread out unnaturally, and numerous green threads appeared on its once sacred branches. In addition to these unexpected green threads, there was a faint black mist covering the trunk of sacred tree Linjia. These foreign elements made the aura of sacred tree Linjia murky, but at the same time strengthened its life force. The Linjia flower, which was supposed to take decades to fully mature and bloom, had now blossomed completely after Yunshi took one petal from it. A large, white ball of light rolled sadly in front of sacred tree Linjia, as if a child was confiding in its parents about the mistreatment it had endured. White lotus wearing white clothes. Red lotus wearing red clothes. Following the ancient covenant, the twin witches who were guardians of the White Lotus secret treasure, Linjia, and also the overseers of the trial, gazed at the scenery reflected in the petals of sacred tree Linjia. Several beautiful scenes of Crystal Creek Valley were reflected in Linjia's petals. They belonged to the teams that still had hope of passing the challenge. As for the teams whose images disappeared, they had already failed completely. In the trial of the White Lotus secret treasure, failure meant death. This means that the remaining teams are the last few with hope of advancing to the next stage. In contrast to these teams who were still battling, the team that passed the trial of Crystal Creek Valley had already begun the next stage. However, since the first stage hadn't ended yet, the teams that reached the second stage now had a rare opportunity to rest. Among them, one of the earliest teams to pass attracted special attention because there was a figure in that team that caught the notice of Red Lotus. That Yun-Kei, I always feel something's not right about her. Red Lotus couldn't help feeling uncomfortable every time she saw the figure with dark, mysterious long hair that seemed inhuman. Why, sister, don't you know him again? White Lotus looked at her sister, who was obviously anxious, with a half-smile on her face, revealing a mysterious smile. He feels dangerous to me, and there is definitely no one like him in our White Lotus sword domain. Red Lotus, as the High Priestess of the White Lotus sword domain, was absolutely certain. She knew everything about the talents in the entire domain. This person, Yun-Kei, does not exist, not even recorded in the archives of the Priestess Palace, as if he just appeared out of thin air. Speaking of danger, isn't Ziyuan over there even more dangerous, along with that strange team? White Lotus knew where her sister's anxiety came from, but she still didn't tell her the truth. With the star moon ring and her innate wisdom and perception, she could see through the prince no matter what he looked like, but it was her secret. Despite the great change, she could still sense that something was wrong. Sister's intuition is really powerful. However, once the gears of destiny start to turn, no one can stop them. Just like the swinging golden balance at this moment, the fate of White Lotus sword domain is about to undergo a huge change. The transformation has begun. What kind of future will be brought to White Lotus sword domain by the things that are entangled with sacred tree Linjia? Gao, oh, 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 oh. The dragon, no, the baby dragon, roared and spat out a stream of dragon breath about 10 meters long, burning through the tails of the Crystal Bee army. Take my sandstorm attack. With a pair of sand eyes opened, Desert Dragon Zaka compressed several tons of sand together to form a constantly spinning sandball, and then it exploded. Ice walls rose up one after another, dividing the battlefield in Crystal Creek Valley, making the two baby dragons play with great joy. The enormous Crystal Bee army, which had terrified other teams and had been chased to the ends of the earth, was defeated by this baby dragon team. As for the creature that would be triggered after reaching a killing value of 100,000, it was pierced through by a powerful and dominating heavy sword, without stirring up the slightest commotion, and was pinned to the ground. In the following time, it was purely a game time for the owner of the young dragon team, the original dragon Huahua, to train her 3 Zakas. For Huahua, the trials of this White Lotus secret treasure were nothing to mention except for the final stage. Among the entire White Lotus sword domain, only the White Lotus secret treasure itself would pique her interest, a position still below her little Shi. Growl. Sandstorm. Ice wall. The 3 Zakas, who were being observed by their mother, the original dragon, fearlessly practiced their skills with a massive army of crystal bees, enjoying themselves immensely. It wasn't until the sun began to set that they finally gave the huge crystal bee nest a good fight, breaking through the entire Crystal Creek Valley. And thus, the 6th team to conquer Crystal Creek Valley was born. Crystal Creek Valley, the team of the Dragon God's domain. Phew. Phew. Finally held on. Dragon Shield Sword Road, once one of the 3 members of the White Lotus Sword Palace, wiped the sweat off his forehead and watched as the enormous bug slowly retreated. Without the guidance of a prophet, his team inevitably triggered the hidden boss of Crystal Creek Valley. It was a bug-like creature the size of a small mountain, resembling a unicorn. In the end, they were unable to defeat this giant bug. Fortunately, it wasn't necessary to defeat the boss monster of the hidden level in order to pass the trial of Crystal Creek Valley. Road used the power of the ancestral god weapon, Dragon Shield, luring the seemingly not very intelligent unicorn bug on his own. By relying on the power within his bloodline, he managed to hold on until the moment his teammates fulfilled the requirements to break through Crystal Creek Valley. And so, another team that successfully completed the trial of Crystal Creek Valley was born. One day later, the final group to complete the trials in Crystal Creek Valley appeared. Originally a large group of almost 4 digits, only 8 teams made it to the second stage of the trials. The largest group was the Noble Families Alliance, with over 3 digits of members. They were the team with the most participants from the White Lotus Secret Treasure Trials. All of them were full of energy, except for a few members who had crooked mouths and walked stiffly. The smallest group was the team from the Ghost Sword Domain, with only Zi Yuan and Yun Hai making it to the end. The most eye-catching team was the one including Hua Hua, who had been childhood friends with someone. 3 young dragons, each 10 meters long, had left many people in awe. With the arrival of the final team, the second stage of the trials was about to begin. On 8 floating stages, teams from White Lotus Sword Palace, the Great Xia, the Noble Families Alliance, the Dragon God's Domain, and the 3 Dragon Team stood in 8 different directions. As the final team arrived, the enormous stage in the center of the floating island slowly started, revealing its true face. Chapter 971, 8 teams. It was an incredibly massive crystal disc. On each of the 8 sides of the crystal disc, there were 8 different crystal spheres, each corresponding to a different team. After the fierce battle in Crystal Creek Valley, these were the 8 teams that managed to reach this place. The first team was led by Prince Xia Jie and Princess Xia Ling of the Great Xia Dynasty. Yun Shi was also part of this team. The second team was an alliance of many nobles' children, with the largest number of members. Child Sanchuan's team of evil gods was also included in this alliance. The third team had the fewest members, consisting only of the owner of the 100 Ghost Sword, Zi Yuan, and a red-clothed archer named Yun Hai. The fourth team was a joint team composed of the top 11 members from the White Lotus Sword Palace, including Xian Yuan, who wielded the Ice Spirit Sword, and the Han Sword Domain led by Shimen Lu Yun, known as the Triple Blade Sword. The fifth team was led by Hua Yu and consisted of the Starwings Knights, who miraculously cleared all the obstacles. The sixth team, the most eye-catching one, is Hua Hua's team of 3 dragons. The seventh team, led by Dragon Shield Sword Road, is a team of powerful dragons in God's domain, equipped with dragon-themed weapons. The eighth team is led by Kingfisher, a fairy, and also includes Red Stone, a top-notch warrior from the Red Steel genre. Almost all of the top 10 of the White Lotus Sword Palace have gathered together, along with Hua Hua, who surpassed them all and achieved great success in the second stage of the trial. Indeed, she is the strongest enemy. Xiao Ling's whole body tightened at the sight of Hua Hua. She, who proclaimed herself the strongest after her first appearance in the White Lotus Sword Palace, will likely be the closest person to the White Lotus secret treasure among all the teams. Look at the 3 young dragons behind her. They are genuine giant dragons, not some earth dragons or fake dragons. Just how many aces does she still have hidden, being able to tame and command such young dragons? Look, is it a tournament? Yunshi looked at the huge crystal disc in the center of the 8 floating platforms. Is this the battlefield for the second stage of the trial? To be honest, when he saw Hua Hua he felt like the first trial of the White Lotus secret treasure was meant for her. As long as Hua Hua participates, there is no place for anyone else. Are you all here to compete for second place? Whether it's one-on-one or one against many, Hua Hua is invincible. There is no such thing as the legend rank here. It's not an exaggeration to say that Hua Hua's strength alone can dominate the whole field. This is not Yunshi bragging, but Hua Hua truly has this absolute strength. Yun Shi, who has always seen Hua Hua as his target, knows her power better than anyone else. It's not a joke. Is it a battle between individuals or teams? Xia Jie, eager to try, is not afraid of anyone if it's a team battle with his 12 black cavalry. It seems like his sister suffered a great loss against this opponent named Hua Hua. No worries, if it's a team battle, he can avenge her. He had 12 black cavalry with him, and he was not someone to be underestimated when it comes to fighting one-on-one. Being hit 6 times by Yun Shi as returning swallow was not his full strength. That time, he had multiplied his hero-ranked power by 5. That girl named Hua Hua only had 10 times the hero-ranked power at most, but when combined with the 12 black cavalry, they had a chance to fight against those 3 young dragons. Unafraid of life and death, the 12 black cavalry, who had unleashed their sealed power, had the ability to fight even against true dragons. In this arena battle, we have the strongest berserker, will definitely win effortlessly, Child Sanquan said with a smile as he looked at the huge crystal stage. After the battle with the demon worm Sudden, he had no doubt about the fighting ability of this red-haired berserker. Among the hero-ranked, there was absolutely no one who could match this monster. A berserker who cannot die and possesses the power to tear apart a demon worm, this is such a freakish strength. Similarly, when they saw the slowly unfolding enormous crystal disc, almost all of the teams made similar judgments. After going through the intense battle in the first phase of the White Lotus secret treasure at Crystal Creek Valley, only the strongest of the strong could make it here. With Crystal Bees at 1,000,000 kills, Crystal Grass Spirits at 100,000 kills, and Crystal Big Grass Spirits at 50,000 kills, they achieved this accomplishment, even defeating the team that challenged the hidden level of the bug monsters, all of whom were the best of the best. The Starwings Knights, who have a profit, but did not trigger the hidden level, can be considered a small exception. In reality, when Yun Shi saw all the members of the Starwings Knights appear in the second phase of the trial, he could hardly believe his eyes. They were clearly weak and shouldn't have been able to defeat the hidden monsters of Crystal Creek Valley. What kind of price did they pay to come here? When Yun Shi saw the confident looks on their faces, he realized that his beloved Starwings Knights had grown so much without him even knowing. They were now true knights who could stand on their own. But even so, it was still too early to come here. Yun Shi looked at the other teams and saw that besides his invincible childhood friend Hua Hua and 3 Zaka, the other 6 teams didn't have any weak members. The team from the Noble Clan Alliance, with their red-haired warrior, gave Yun Shi a huge sense of pressure, second only to his childhood friend. Zi Yuan, who had visited the heart-asking cabin before, and a familiar figure that made Yun Shi momentarily stunned, Yun Kei, using her real name now, was truly a formidable opponent that the Starwings Knights couldn't fight against. Yun Shi, who is also acquainted with Kingfisher from the Fairy Tribe and Redstone from the Red Steel genre, always feels a special sense of tranquility from Kingfisher, even though their team may look a bit worn out. The Starwings Knights, which have only been established for a few months, shouldn't be on this level of battlefield. What kind of beliefs do they hold that they have overcome countless difficulties and finally stepped onto this stage? Through the connection with the Starwings Knights, Yun Shi feels an unprecedented strong determination. It seems like they have all transformed after completing Crystal Creek Valley. Yun Shi realizes that the current number of hero-ranked members in the Starwings Knights has exceeded double digits. They are no longer an unknown new group of knights. Becoming a member of hero-ranked, the leader of the Starwings Knights is Hua Yu, the vice leader is Xiao Chao, the secretary is Ling Ling, the treasurer is Mei Lan, the potion master is Lu Lu, the witch is Rose, and the diviner is Robin. In addition, there are 3 members of the Knight and Magic team, Alexander, Lancelot, and Mordred. Finally, there is someone who surprises Yun Shi but seems perfectly natural. It is Mumu, who wears a large silver hair accessory and emits a holy radiance from head to toe. Chapter 972, Mumu's Transformation. Yunshi rubbed his eyes. The bright and shining little princess who stood among the Starwings Knights, like a moon being held by countless stars, was indeed the Mumu he knew. But when did Mumu acquire this silver-white halo? That's not all. How did she undergo such a huge change with her enormous silver hair accessory and the special silver-white dress she's wearing? The beautiful outfit, which was already expensive-looking, became even more dazzling with a layer of silver brilliance. At this moment, Mumu looked like a princess made of silver gemstone, emitting a dazzling light. The members of the Starwings Knights treated her completely differently than before. In the past, everyone was very careful and protective of Mumu, treating her like a delicate little princess who they were afraid of dropping or melting. Mumu, who had always been well protected by the twin witches, was seen by everyone as a girl who needed constant care and had run away from home to find her dad. However, in the Battle of Crystal Creek Valley, Mumu finally showed her true power and completely changed the girls' impression of her in the Starwings Knights. Mumu was incredibly strong, so strong that it was beyond imagination. She had a special power called the Absolute Barrier, which was the Starwings Knights' guarantee of 0 injuries. Just by standing there, she could boost the morale of the entire Starwings Knights permanently. It seemed that she naturally possessed an inspiring power. As long as she was in the Starwings Knights camp, they would become exceptionally skilled in battle and have no worries about the future. After getting used to this, Mumu's status in the Starwings Knights soared, and someone even suggested that she become the second vice-captain. Little Mumu had a great power. Has she awakened? From a long time ago, specifically from the day of the White Lotus Sword Palace entrance ceremony, Yunshi knew that Mumu possessed an incredibly powerful hidden power. The diamond body, a godlike talent in battle, was obtained from Mumu's seed. In the past, Yunshi always believed that this special physique came from Mumu's ancestors, a hidden divine talent within her body. But now, Yunshi has discovered that he was completely wrong. This is not some hidden talent, but a power that Mumu naturally possesses. Her diamond body is innate. Now, standing among the Starwings Knights, she has started to show this power. Wherever she stands, there are mighty mountains that cannot be moved. She can even turn her power into a halo to bless all her Starwings Knights companions. With her diamond body, once she grows up, she will definitely become an extraordinary strong person. Even now she is already ranked among the top in this trial. No wonder, with her presence, it is not impossible for the Starwings Knights to pass the trial of Crystal Creek Valley. That little Mumu is now beginning to radiate her own brilliance. Not only her, but the entire Starwings Knights are constantly growing. Just a few days apart, they have relied on their own strength to come this far. With the power of their seeds, Yunshi has grown step by step to where she is now. They have also used the seeds they shared with Yunshi to take different paths. Swords and magic. Divine herbalists and platinum roses. Mortal swords and foreseeing the future. The current Starwings Knights are no longer just a small team made up of inexperienced young ladies from prestigious families and ordinary girl knights. They have entered the second phase of the trial in the White Lotus secret treasure without any casualties. They now have the strength to compete against powerful teams from higher sword domains such as the Great Xia, the Great Han, and the Great Zhou. The trial in the White Lotus secret treasure is both a challenge and an opportunity for them. Some teams were wiped out by the flying crystal bees. Some teams fell under the barrage of hidden insect beasts. And so, the Starwings Knights successfully completed their trial and arrived on this stage, feeling completely at ease. In order to catch up with May and exceed their own limits, they exerted all their effort. At this moment, standing proudly on the floating island, they were already one of the strongest 8 teams in the entire White Lotus Sword domain. What should we do next? These teams are not to be underestimated, observed Huayu, the leader of the Starwings Knights, as she looked at the remaining 7 teams and quickly came to a conclusion. The current Star Wings Knights were unable to compete with these teams. Especially the Great Xia, the Family Alliance, and Huahua's team, their chances of winning were practically zero. "Don't worry, we still have a possibility to move forward," reassured Robin, the only mysterious fortune teller in the White Lotus Secret Treasure trial. Even before entering the trial, she had glimpsed some of the paths of destiny. The Star Wings Knights were not the main characters in this trial, but they were not just supporting roles that would disappear soon. Among them, there was a girl who had a great connection to this trial. If there was a crucial moment for the Star Wings Knights to break through, it would be her. "Are we going to fight?" Mumu raised her small hand, looking eager. Since coming here, Mumu noticed that her body seemed to have undergone some changes. Well, maybe her muscles became a bit tighter, and her chest grew a little bit. But Mumu's intuition told her that it wasn't just a little change, it was a very, very significant change. It seemed like once she entered the secret realm of the White Lotus Secret Treasure, her almost stagnant body suddenly returned to normal time. Many things that she didn't understand awakened like instinct. For example, the revival of her strength. How to use your own power to protect everyone in the Star Wings Knights. And there, echoing in your ears, is an unfamiliar dragon language. Dog. 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 What does this mean? It seems like go forward. Go forward. Go forward. Mumu, it's your turn. Protected by the older sisters in the Star Wings Knights all along, this time she will help everyone achieve victory. A silver-white halo spreads out, and Mumu's gaze becomes unprecedentedly calm and sharp. "Mumu, you are growing up." Seeing Mumu like this, Yunxi is extremely joyful, but for some reason, there is also a sense of uneasiness. It's strange, why is Mumu getting stronger, and why does he feel uneasy? That silver-white radiance, it seems strangely familiar. Chapter 973, Linjia's Miraculous Power. Next, I announce the rules for the second stage of the trial. As the 8 teams observe and test each other's strengths, the voice of the twin witches resonates from the central crystal disk. In the first stage, the trial in Crystal Creek Valley is testing your strength. If your team doesn't have enough strength, you won't qualify for the second stage of the trial. In the second stage, the trial on the fantasy stage will test your intelligence and imagination. Can you make Linjia's petals display the most beautiful colors? Remember, Linjia's flower is one of a kind in the world and can perform great miracles. So, let your imagination run wild. In front of you are 8 petals of Linjia. Only those who can harness the power of miracles have the opportunity to come into contact with the White Lotus Secret Treasure. Isn't this a battle on the stage? Yunxi frowned, looking at the 8 glowing crystal balls. The goal of the first stage in Crystal Creek Valley is simple and clear. Anyone who reaches a sufficient number of kills can pass the level. Why did the rules change so much in the second stage? How will they test intelligence and imagination? Luckily, the twin witches provided an answer. 8 crystals correspond to 8 different teams. The crystals can reflect your wishes and the strongest beings you can imagine. The closer your wishes are to reality, the more real the imagined beings will become. In this trial, you don't need to personally fight, but instead summon the strongest beings you can imagine to battle. The one who can unleash their strongest imagination and summon the strongest being related to their wish will have the last laugh. The 8 crystals can be used without limitations, but only recognized strong individuals are eligible for the final challenge. It's not real combat, but using crystals to summon powerful beings related to your wishes. After understanding the rules of the second stage of the White Lotus Secret Treasure, Yunxi had a puzzled expression. No matter how you think about it, these rules give off a strange vibe. Linjia's power of petals can turn the impossible into possible, making miracles happen. Yunxi is confused as to why they would use this method to determine the winner. imagination and desires, to decide the winner in this way. Moreover, it seems like such a waste to have unlimited use of the 8 crystal balls. What kind of method do they want to use to select the winner of the White Lotus Secret Treasure Trial? Perfect, my dragon soul is already eager. For Xia Jia, his desire is to become the emperor of the Great Xia and control the power of the strongest black dragon soul. He is confident in the power he can summon, at least a hero-ranked 6th rank peak power, which is a privilege of the emperors of the Great Xia throughout history. As long as he inherits the throne of the Great Xia, the prince wearing the black flame dragon armor will gain the power of the black dragon, instantly reaching an unimaginable level of mastery over the dragon soul. Well then, it's my turn. The power of the 6th hero ranked is so strong that it can easily crush those people. Xia Jia is absolutely confident in his own power and desires. His desires are not just empty dreams, but almost certain futures. Those who fantasize about having powers and desires out of thin air have no right to compare themselves to him. Is your desire the ghost sword? Xiao Ling can probably guess her brother's choice, and she has had her own plan for a long time. Her desire is to become the Sky Sword. Perhaps she is still far from the world of the Sky Sword, but this goal will never change. If she can't become the Sky Sword, she will never fall in love. This is the goal Xiao Ling has set for herself. The powerful existence born from her desires is definitely related to the Sky Sword. My desire is. Yun Shik originally wanted to use his teacher, Cassina the Battle God. She is the strongest person he has ever encountered, and it is effortless for him to imagine using her. Having had previous experience using Linja petals, he easily imagined what Cassina the Battle God's teacher should be like in the crystal ball. I actually appeared as the Black Dragon Emperor. On top of the central crystal disc, Xia Jia's figure had already appeared. Before him stood the Great Xia Emperor, dressed in black battle armor with intricate dragon patterns that surpassed Xia Jia's current ones tenfold. Faintly, you could see the shadow of the present Xia Jia in his eyes. However, compared to the present Xia Jia, the future Xia Jia seemed to have a slender figure and sharper eyes, and the aura emanating from the 12 black cavalries behind him became even more profound. Other than his eyes, Xia Jia's entire body was wrapped in dragon-patterned armor, exuding an imposing presence without anger. His power, astonishingly, exceeded Xia Jia's most optimistic imagination, possessing a dominance that surpassed all things, a chilling oppressive feeling that even vaguely exceeded the concept of being a hero ranked. The legend rank, will I have the chance to become a legend in the future? Xia Jia could hardly believe this was his future self, that he would actually have the hope of advancing to the legend rank. This was a field that even the emperors of the Great Xia throughout history had not achieved, a miracle that even the dragon veins of the Great Xia could not accomplish. If this was a prophecy of the White Lotus secret treasure, it would be a hope that would make the royal family of the Great Xia ecstatic. So, there is a powerful existence related to my wishes. If this is the principle, perhaps I can. Alright, even if I can't pass this trial, it's still worth it. Seeing Xia Jia's potential in the future, the other mark holders from different teams also showed eager expressions. Soon, someone used the power of their team's crystal ball and challenged Xia Jia, who was feeling proud of himself. This was a hero-ranked strong individual from the Union of Aristocratic Families, the Broken Iron Sword Russell from the top 10 of the White Lotus Sword Palace. The powerful presence summoned by the crystal ball about his wishes was a young man wearing a green priest robe and wielding a green crystal sword. From his facial features, this young man was very similar to the present Russell, but he didn't have the physique of a traditional swordsman. The crystal sword in his hand was only 3 fingers long, completely different from the sword that the present Russell uses. Ahis. Upon seeing his opponent, the green-robed Russell uttered a simple spell and his right hand, along with the crystal sword, suddenly transformed into a huge green tentacle. This tentacle was over 10 meters long, covered with numerous suction cups engraved with various runes that the present Russell couldn't understand. As Russell cast his spell, the suction cups began to light up one by one according to some mysterious pattern. Strange green dots began to dance around Russell, spinning and then turning into ferocious shadows appearing behind him. Forbidden magic. Russell immediately recognized the power he was using. It was a field that he didn't even have the qualification to connect with now. Would he walk down this path in the future? Chapter 974, Battle of Fantasy. The green tentacles, under the control of the crystal sword, struck down suddenly. A series of green acid bombs were released, instantly dissolving the ground of the crystal disc like a storm, turning the entire area into a toxic zone resembling a poison pool. Smack! 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 More transparent green tentacles emerged from the ground, emitting a toxic aura. This was Russell's forbidden spell, a strategic spell that could completely modify the terrain. Covering an area of over 100 meters, the poison pool gave Russell a magic pool that exceeded his body's limits by more than 100 times. It also elevated his sustained combat power and killing potential to a terrifying level. Russell looked at his forbidden spell and couldn't help but feel that something was off about it. Wasn't he a swordsman? Why does his forbidden spell seem completely unrelated to swordsmanship? Zing! 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 The 12 black cavalry stood in a green poisonous pool, the armor on their feet corroded by the fierce venom, filling the air with deadly toxins. But they remained still. No amount of poison could affect the Black Knights who were already dead. The Black Dragon Emperor, wearing a black visor, raised his hand and swung it downwards. The 12 black cavalry began to move. They were as unstoppable as a thunderbolt. Facing these colossal creatures over 10 meters tall, the 12 black cavalry showed no fear. The toxic tentacles released by Russell were severed, torn, and trampled before them like saplings. It was clear to everyone that there was a huge difference in combat power between the two sides, and the potential shown by the great Xia Prince far exceeded that of Russell, the man. However, Russell also possessed formidable forbidden spells. Since I am going to become a tentacle user, let's make it even crazier. Russell, who was feeling a bit hopeless, gritted his teeth and stared at the other version of himself in the crystal ball, his future self, and gave an order. As he held the crystal ball, he was closely connected to the Russell fighting on the crystal ball. His will also partially influenced that other Russell. This was the special feature of the second trial. Wisdom, imagination, creativity. Wisdom is the most powerful trait of the intelligent race and one of the greatest strengths of humans. As a race in the endless gods' domains with balanced qualities in all areas, humans can only compete with those incredibly powerful races and even create their own legend by unlocking the door of wisdom. Humans cannot actively push the limits of their race, so they can only chase after those beloved by the heavens and the earth in this way. Even if such humans are only born once in billions or trillions of people, they are still the hope of humanity. Among all the intelligent races, humans are the most numerous. Among all the highly reproductive races, humans are the smartest. The majority of humans lead ordinary lives, with the limit of their abilities being at the third rank of ordinary people. Dreaming of advancing to hero rank through racial characteristics is simply impossible. That's why humans have the largest variety of educational organizations across the endless gods' domains. The Sword Palace in the Sky Sword God's domain, the various Taoist palaces and sects in the Eastern God's domain. The churches, noble families, and academies in the Western God's domain. Learning and obtaining wisdom, humans cannot become stronger simply by sleeping like dragons. They must work hard in their own areas of expertise, constantly strive, and search for the essence of power in order to embark on the path of heroes and legends. White Lotus Secret Treasure is a world treasure that can unleash the power of wisdom to an incredible extent. It does not belong to the category of any god weapon and naturally possesses boundless wisdom. Russell, a young man, had a simple wish for the White Lotus Secret Treasure: to become stronger. When he held the crystal ball, the treasure granted his wish and showed him a glimpse of his most powerful future. However, this future was not set in stone. No one can accurately predict the future, not even Ouroboros, who can only occasionally glimpse fragments of time. In response to Russell's urgent desire to become stronger, the crystal sword released even more powerful acid bombs, causing the toxic pool beneath him to boil. Suddenly, a poisonous dragon soared into the sky. This was the evolved power of Russell's toxic pool, the seed of his potential to reach the legendary rank. However, this was only a tiny possibility, and Russell would have to pay a great cost to truly reach this point. The strength of the White Lotus Secret Treasure is that Russell can awaken this power through his unlimited wisdom, and then it can be manifested on the battlefield of the crystal ball. Because this is a battlefield of creativity and imagination, a stage of wisdom and inspiration. The flying dragon that flew out of the poisonous pool roared excitedly, and its wings had a horrific purple glow that indicated its extremely poisonous nature. It had 3 hollow areas on its abdomen that could release venomous attacks, and its tail had a terrifying large mouth. This is not like the subspecies of the 2-legged venomous flying dragon that people imagine. It looks more like a monster that has mutated after being eroded by an indescribable force. Dragon, attack his face. Even though Russell knew that his command was ineffective in the battle on the crystal ball, he couldn't help but shout it out. One wave. Xia Jia extended his thumb and pointed it downwards. Of course, this command was also ineffective, as the opposing sides on the crystal ball did not accept commands from outside the battlefield. For them, who were created by the White Lotus Secret Treasure, this is a real battlefield. Those outside the battlefield can only provide material for wisdom and imagination. The only way for those outside to influence the outcome of the battle is through their acknowledgement and gaze towards their own desires. This is the only way to enhance the fighting power of fantasy heroes. With a roar, a poisonous flying dragon in the sky uses its advantage in aerial combat and swoops towards the Black Dragon Emperor, spewing deadly venom. The Black Dragon Emperor pays no attention to the flying dragon in the sky, and directly unleashes a black flame shield, completely burning away the toxins, not letting a trace of the foul liquid touch him. On the ground, the 12 black cavalry merge into a sharp blade that pierces through the pool of poison, destroying the troublesome tentacles one by one. With the tentacles defeated, Russell screams in pain, covering his head and releasing the crystal ball. On the crystal disc, Xia Jia's 12 black cavalry easily executed a strategy called beheading tactics, swiftly defeating Russell, who was holding a crystal sword, and then killing him. As Russell disappeared from the crystal disc, the Russell holding the crystal suffered a major blow to his spirit, looking confused and dazed. Yes, this is my black cavalry. My invincible cavalry. Xia Jia watched proudly as his 12 black cavalry galloped across the battlefield, feeling satisfied and exhilarated. Chapter 975. The Running Xiao Chao ranking 10th, Broken Iron Sword Russell, a wish incarnation of the White Lotus Secret Treasure, lost the battle. Ranking 9th, Steel Thorn Sword Wang Qi, also a wish incarnation, lost the battle. Ranking 8th, White Light Sword Bai Yun, another wish incarnation, lost the battle. Ranking 7th, Blood Light Sword Xia Huanjin, the 4th wish incarnation, lost the battle. In the beginning of the Crystal Ball tournament, there were 4 battles. The great Xia Prince, Xia Jia, who transformed into the Black Dragon Emperor, won all 4 battles. With the powerful black cavalry, they crushed many green tentacles. Victory. Only victory can satisfy me. Only victory can make me feel excited. This is my future path. Watching the Black Dragon Emperor dominate the battlefield and defeat the elite members of the Noble Alliance, Xia Jia felt his heart beating fast as he placed his hand on his chest. Yes, this is his wish, his desired future. That dark figure is the embodiment of his ideals. The future emperor of the Great Xia, the Black Dragon Emperor. On the other hand, there was silence and chaos among the members of the Noble Alliance. A few talented disciples from the White Lotus Sword Palace, who came from various noble families in the Sky Sword God's domain, looked at each other and found confusion in their eyes. They were among the top 10 in the White Lotus Sword Palace, each having been given the prestigious White Lotus mark. Their talent in swordsmanship was recognized. But why is it that after gripping the crystal ball, they all ended up transitioning into being wielders of the green tentacles, which had control over them? As they gradually regained their memories, they instinctively sensed that something was wrong. There seemed to be fragments of memories floating around in their minds. These fragments were hazy and occasionally appeared as markings resembling deep-sea eels. Whenever these markings appeared, their pupils would turn an unnatural shade of green. Are we? Don't speak, staying alive is the most important thing. At this point, there's no turning back. Witnessing the possible stance they could awaken to in the future, the partially sane elite members of the White Lotus Sword Palace were first shocked, then confused, and ultimately had to accept that this was their destiny. As for where exactly their lives started to go wrong from the fork in their fate, they couldn't remember. The judgment of the White Lotus secret treasure was almost never wrong. The figures appearing on the crystal ball had a tangible connection to their souls, only strengthened many times over, approaching their ideal perfection. A group of useless people. So what if it's the Prince of the Great Xia? I won't lose to him. Qin Su, the highest-ranked member among the prestigious family of the Heaven-Child Sword, looked disdainfully at these tentacle users. Compared to them, he had accepted the power from the abyss earlier, donning a yellow robe. Since he couldn't become the true Heaven Child of the Great Qin Sword domain, becoming the Heaven Child of this side was also acceptable. With the highest talent and the highest level of contamination, he could now hear the voices of his own people belonging to his own country. Shoo! Shoo! That was the sound of countless king insect larvae crawling. Bzz. Bzz. That was the sound of electric rays swimming in circles. Splash. Splash. That was the sound of a lot of giant jellyfish entangled together. And in the deeper, icy abyss, the gaze of the North Sea monster. In this moment, his yellow robe had become extraordinary, like reaching the heavens in a single step. Those who believed in Su had great fear and great wisdom. Don't compare this yellow-robed emperor with those clueless fools who still haven't realized the truth. Once he understood what had happened to him, he fully embraced the side of the abyss. Watching the cold and powerful Black Dragon Emperor on the crystal ball battlefield, someone from the Starwings Knights camp was eager to try. I'll go. With her braids flying, Xiao Chao held onto the crystal representing the Starwings Knights. Xiao Chao's wish was simple, to battle, a truly pure battle. Go challenge opponents who are stronger than you, go across more battlefields, and alone you can achieve goals that nobody else can accomplish. Going on solo adventures is perfect. Being rebellious is perfect. Being strong in solitude, not needing any support, and being able to change the course of a battle on your own, that's the strongest. The sword of an ordinary person, after countless battles of training, is growing into a charging, godlike sword. No matter what kind of dire situation, Xiao Chao can persevere and survive. Even when facing powerful opponents, Xiao Chao will still go and challenge them. After advancing from the ordinary person rank to the hero ranked, every day Xiao Chao is getting stronger, like a tiny sprout struggling to grow out from under a huge rock. Nothing can stop her growth anymore. And what changes Xiao Chao is Mei, like the sunlight and rain that the grass needs. To Xiao Chao, May is the sunlight and the rain. Once considered a girl with average talent, the village girl has started to grow towards becoming a warrior. The power of the war god is being refined. The wishful scenery of Xiao Chao reflected in the White Lotus secret treasure is none other than herself. Compared to the current Xiao Chao, the future Xiao Chao seems to be quieter and her eyes are calmer. What has changed the most is the mortal sword in her hand. This mortal sword, which was originally just a novice iron sword, has taken on a whole new color after being reassembled by Xiao Chao. On the blade of the mortal sword held by Xiao Chao, deduced by the White Lotus secret treasure, there are red marks that seem impossible to wash away. These marks are traces of blood, whether it be tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even more, formed who knows how long ago. As Xiao Chao grows a little, there are no freckles on her face anymore. Her braided hair gently sways, like a dragon's tail. This is it. Xia Jia felt threatened for the first time. A sudden opponent emerged from the camp of the Starwings Knights, causing the Black Dragon Emperor inside the crystal ball to take the initiative for the first time. And not only that, they attacked along with their 12 black cavalry at once, launching a charge that had never been seen before against any enemy. Xiao Chao became even quieter and bowed its head slightly. It began to run, with its braids swaying like the tail of a dragon. The running of the 12 black cavalry and the Black Dragon Emperor was like an earthquake, shaking the land and causing the thunderous sound of their footsteps to echo through the sky. Xiao Chao's running was like a nimble antelope on the prairie, light and agile, smooth and flexible. Even Yunxi watching this scene thought that Xiao Chao had awakened some kind of agile ability. No, it wasn't agility. It was proof that they had mastered a certain footwork technique to its limit. Chapter 976. That black dragon seems familiar. Can the human body endure such acceleration and changes in direction? No, it's impossible for either side. The 12 black cavalry accelerate, relying on their bodies that are not even within the realm of humans. Once the Black Knights, who are already deceased, can withstand it and are infused with enough dragon energy, they can continuously unleash their power, unaffected by the 10-meter-long poisonous green tentacles. Similarly, wearing the black flame dragon armor and supported by the power of the Great Xia's dragon energy, the Black Dragon Emperor can use the dragon's soul moment without any limits, surpassing the limitations of the flesh. Controlling the power of dragon energy with the human body is the power of wisdom, and the key for the human race to surpass its own limits. Similarly, the running of Xiao Chao is based on the same principle, achieved through the mobility radiating from her mortal sword throughout her body. The god weapon is a special weapon that humans use to surpass their physical limits. It is the proof of being a hero-ranked hero and a miraculous fantasy creation. A hero-ranked hero without a god weapon is completely different from one with a god weapon. No human can surpass the limits of being hero-ranked without the power of the god weapon. One can say that only those who possess the god weapon are qualified to see the doors to higher worlds. Just like wisdom is the key for humans to unlock mysteries in the field, the god weapon is the key for humans to unlock legends in the field. With a rumbling sound of iron hooves, even though there were only 13 knights in the group, they displayed the aura of a mighty army. This is the battlefield of a lone swordsman and the king who controls the army. It is the clash between the shattered army and the destined king, the most thrilling battle in the Crystal Ball tournament. The girls of the Starwings Knights watched the battlefield with anticipation, hoping for Xiao Chao to create another miracle. The soldiers of the Great Xia dynasty watched the battlefield, full of confidence in their prince, Xia Jia. Other soldiers also watched, wondering what heroes their side would summon when they took the stage. Thunder, fire, instant explosions. Ding! 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 A series of rapid and crisp sounds. Xiao Chao's lone figure charged into the 12 black cavalry, turning into a shining light that pierced the earth. 1 flash, 2 flashes, 3 flashes. Each flash of the sword represented a black cavalry being knocked away. The seemingly fragile figure of Xiao Chao revealed unimaginable terrifying power as they entered the black cavalry's ranks. Even the members of the Star Wings Knights looked surprised at Xiao Chao. Is her power really that strong? Not that strong, breathed out Yun Shi, who had excellent observational skills. But something even more terrifying than sheer power. Because she demonstrated exceptional sword skills at the peak level. The power of the heavy sword struck by 12 black cavalry was mostly absorbed by the mortal sword, even using their own power to counteract the impact. Yun Shi could not compare to the intuitive and computational abilities required for this. Will these skills be mastered by the future Xiao Chao? After the talent of the mortal sword evolved to this stage, it has the miraculous effect of transforming decay into magic. Despite being surrounded by enemies, Xiao Chao showed no signs of nervousness. With her braided hair fluttering, she parried and deflected all the attacks with the mortal sword. The Black Knights, who possessed more than 10 times the normal hero-ranked strength, were thrown off balance by Xiao Chao alone. If Xiao Chao was only facing 12 black cavalry, the situation would have completely fallen apart. But, don't forget, who is the person on the crystal ball representing the Prince of the Great Xia fighting in the war? Who is the true master of the 12 black cavalry? The dark giant sword raised high, but instead of choosing to strike with justice like Xia Jia, it summoned the power of the black dragon veins, representing the Great Xia. Amidst the roar of the black dragon, the future emperor of the Great Xia made his first real move, as foreseen in the White Lotus secret treasure. When he made his move, it was earth-shattering. The black dragon summoned by Xia Jia and his tyrant state was no different from a little bug compared to the black dragon that flew out in response to the black dragon emperor. Compared to Xia Jia's unruly black dragon soul that didn't listen to his commands, the black dragon flying above the black dragon emperor's head was majestic, powerful, and perfectly combined with the black dragon emperor's own aura. At this moment, one could say that the Black Dragon Emperor and this Black Dragon were as one. After appearing, the Black Dragon suddenly targeted Xiao Chao running amok among the 12 black cavalry, extending its dragon claws. On its pitch-black claws, shimmered a chilling light. One tear, one pull. At the spot where Xiao Chao was, a deep claw mark several tens of meters long appeared suddenly, and Xiao Chao, who had been unharmed since the beginning of the battle, was sent flying for the first time. Below the battlefield, Hua Hua's team. That black dragon seems to. Desert Dragon Zaka squinted at the black dragon appearing behind the black dragon emperor, wearing an expression of, I know who you are. Aha! Aha! It can't be wrong. Ace Dragon Zaka waved at the black dragon, showing a faint smile. If that's the case, this human. Red Dragon Zaka looked quite interestedly at the Black Dragon Emperor clad in black armor, as well as Xiao Chao who stood up on the battlefield once again. Xiao Chao was targeted by the Black Dragon with an attack that she couldn't avoid. She was blown away, but it seemed like she wasn't hurt. Instead, it unleashed some kind of invisible energy. On Xiao Chao's mortal sword, faint blood stains started to appear. Then, they spread and extended. The second time, the black dragon's claws came rushing towards Xiao Chao. This time, Xiao Chao skillfully took on the attack, without stepping back or being knocked away. The power that appeared within Xiao Chao's body was not something that a human could possess. It was a kind of power even more mighty, comparable to the true Black Dragon soul of the Black Dragon Emperor. Unmatched. Xiao Chao spoke for the first time as she stepped onto the battlefield. Dragon Roar Wave. Similarly, the Black Dragon Emperor also spoke. Neither of them spoke first, and those outside the crystal ball didn't even know that the hero who responded to the crystal ball's call could actually speak. Even though it only appeared as if they were unleashing the power of their respective rules. However, what puzzled Xia Jia was that her future voice seemed to be a bit too deep. Nonetheless, the genuine resonating power of the dragon's soul within it was undeniable. It was as if she was speaking true dragon language. But Xia Jia was puzzled by the fact that his future voice seemed to be a little too deep. However, the resonance of the dragon's soul power contained in it was real, just like genuine dragon language. The black beam of light created a huge collapse, causing a massive black gravitational tide on the battlefield of crystal spheres. Yunxi found this scenery quite familiar. Then came the relentless flash of consecutive sword blades that cut through everything without mercy. Chapter 977. Their respective futures. The black aura turned into a massive vortex, resembling the ultimate day Yunxi had witnessed in the world of the ancient dragons. It was the dragon roar wave that heralded the end of the world. In contrast, the sword light that split the heavens and the earth tore apart the entire world. The crystal spheres were almost unable to deduce such a battle, resulting in a momentary freeze. In the end, Xia Jia looked at the fallen 12 black cavalry and the silent black dragon emperor with an unbelieving gaze. That figure, as if foreshadowing a future for him. The one who emerged victorious was a member of the Starwings Knights, the young girl named Xiao Chao. She was drenched in dragon blood, and with her mortal sword, she severed the head of the black dragon Shadow. However, her expression was somewhat strange. It wasn't the look of a winner, but rather a questioning gaze, as if asking, "What exactly is this thing?" The dragon beneath her feet slowly began to disappear, transforming into dust-like particles, and the figure of the Black Dragon Emperor vanished from the crystal battlefield. I actually lost. Xia Jia gazed with a vacant expression at the disappearing Black Dragon Emperor from the crystal battlefield. This meant that Xiao Chao, from the Starwings Knights, had greater potential for the future than Xia Jia himself. Before coming to the White Lotus Sword domain, who would have known about the Starwings Knights? Wasn't it just a small group of girls that had been formed for only a few months? Although many talented young female swordsmen emerged and gradually entered the attention of the noble families, they were still just a small and newly formed group. The honorable crown prince of the Great Xia, the future emperor, lost to such a newcomer. This is outrageous. There must be something wrong, surely. Now, do you understand the rules? The voice of the twin witches echoed once again on the 8 floating islands. After 5 consecutive crystal ball duels, the 8 teams participating in the second stage of the White Lotus Secret Treasure finally realized the key to this trial. Intelligence. Wishes. Imagination. Creativity. If the first stage of the trial tested the present, then the second stage tested the future. And now, the test is over. The official battlefield begins. Only those who demonstrate the greatest potential are qualified to challenge the final level. The 8 teams were connected by 8 crystal balls at the same time. Beams of radiant light soared into the sky, guided by the crystal ball, signaling the heroes who volunteered themselves to join the battle in the crystal ball arena. Instead of playing one game after another, they now engaged in multiple simultaneous matches, selecting the strongest participants through a series of rounds. Similar to the starry chess battle that Yunxi once participated in, only those who won the most matches could prove their potential and qualify for this stage of the trial. With the experience gained earlier, all the participants began to imagine the strongest future they desired, one that was closely related to their own wishes. For the majority of people, there was only one wish: to enter the White Lotus Secret Treasure realm, to become a stronger version of themselves. In response to their summons, the incarnation of their most familiar and powerful desire emerged, the embodiment of their strongest selves. I wish to transform my sword into a spirit. I wish to transform myself into a spirit. Unite the sword and spirit, and forge my supreme sky sword. The princess of the Great Xia, Xia Ling, tightly grasped her twin dragon sword and imitated her brother, Xia Jia, as she imagined and created the strongest version of herself. Xia Jia created a future as the Black Dragon Emperor, so she also wanted to create her own future. She imagined becoming the Sky Sword. The Starwings Knights thought, interesting, so it's the power of wishes. The stronger the wish, the more powerful the vision of oneself becomes. But it doesn't mean that we have to fight alone, right? Hua Yu smiled as she watched Xiao Chao fully immersed in the battles, unable to break free. Her path was different from Xiao Chao's. Xiao Chao had already chosen its path, excelling in fighting alone, not needing anyone to protect its back, even on the battlefield. Charging forward, unstoppable, it relied solely on her own strength to conquer all supernatural beings. And she chose the path of a knight because she preferred protecting important things together with everyone rather than fighting alone. May and the Starwings Knights. Let's fight together. The Platinum Rose blossomed. I don't understand complicated things, as long as I become stronger. Yeah, and also, maybe I can be a little bit prettier and a little bit taller. Instead of thinking about fighting, Ling Ling seemed to be considering some secrets that she couldn't tell children. It was about improving a beverage that Yunxi really liked. The future, my future, is right here. This night group won't be the same without me. After thoughtful consideration, Meilon chose a future that was more suited for books than swords. It's also time to make a choice. It felt like I could smell Daddy's scent. Mumu raised her little nose, looking left and right, with an excited expression on her face. Is this here, or is it there? Those girls over there, aren't they Zaka and her friends? Beams of light poured into the crystal ball, intertwining with the girl's thoughts. Different wishes, different futures, different paths. The second stage of the White Lotus secret treasure is a test and a choice. The future presented here may not necessarily come true 100%, but it definitely hints at certain information. Facing oneself with honesty allows one to unleash their own power. Those who make a choice can see a future scenery that can truly be achieved. However, not everyone is like this. For example, there is one individual who is entangled in so much fate that their future has become as tangled as a ball of yarn played with by cats, like a child of the stars. What should I choose? Yunxi, with a confused look on his face, stared at the future scenery that appeared on the crystal ball. Most of the futures that others saw were extensions of their current selves. Just like Xiao Chao of the Starwings Knights, her future was almost identical to her present. And just like the great Xia's prince, Xia Jia, his future was exactly how he imagined it. But for Yunxi, it was completely different. Because right in front of him, there were dozens of paths extending out. Each path led to a different future, a different possibility. The problem was, Yunxi could feel that each path led to a real future. Chapter 978. Many futures. Could there really be so many different futures for me? If we consider the second stage of the White Lotus secret treasure trial as a kind of future career advancement test, then this pile of paths means that there are dozens of futures that suit him. And none of them are repeated. Why didn't I even know that I had so many options for future advancement? Obviously, I chose to be a swordsman. Yunxi's way of thinking is simply straightforward like this. Since he already learned the basic moves of Hua's sky-flying sword and Yunhai's quadrant sword, maybe there are other career choices besides being a swordsman. Out of curiosity, he wanted to know what kind of person he could be on these paths, so he chose the one on his left and touched it with his finger. Boom! A golden, fiery flame rushed towards him, surrounding him and dancing along with him. Countless golden and crimson lights and the spirits of fire cheered around him, speaking to him in a language that humans cannot understand. It was the voice of the essence of the world, the purest and most innocent song of these spirits. They were welcoming him once again as he arrived here. In the endless gods' domains, one of the most powerful ranks in the whole starry world, the Sunwalker, was waiting for Yunxi. 1, 2, 3, 12 light furnaces surrounded Yunxi, each one a perfect creation with the power of a sun, and this was far from their limit. As long as Yunxi wished, he could use the countless spirits as materials to create more light furnaces, even forming a destructive army of suns. Covered in a golden robe, the sun god adorned Yunxi, allowing him to walk among the clouds and illuminate the sky and earth. With every step he took, the path of the sun changed, a stellar-level way of shifting its trajectory. This world could accommodate such a sun, and even more suns to come, because it was the legendary god's domain, located at the highest level of the entire endless god's domains, spanning 33 days. Even if there were 2 suns in the sky, the creatures on the ground still lived their lives freely. Some creatures even enjoyed the hot and sunny weather. A magnificent bird, just like Yunxi, the Sunwalker, with wings spread wide, eagerly flew over. It was the dreamlike bird during the pregnancy of the Queen Mother of Kunlun God's domain. May! 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 The little golden crow princess spread her golden wings, now big enough to cover Yunxi. She cheered and walked with him in the sky. The heavens and the earth. Light and fire. Yunxi and the golden crow princess. The whole world blessed this couple with happiness. Everywhere they walked, there were golden fragments scattered around. These were the essence of the sun, attracting many birds from Kunlun God's domain to absorb the abundant energy. Oh, I see. Is this where the princess and our future lies? Yunxi could feel a connection between himself and the Golden Crow Princess, as if they shared the same bloodline. They both carried the scent of being sunwalkers. May, let's fly together. The Golden Crow Princess took Yunxi by the hand, and they soared above the 33 heavens. Whether it was a dream or something else, any dream they could have together was the best dream. What a beautiful world. Just like you. Yunxi looked at the mountains, seas, and land beneath his feet. This was the most mysterious and beautiful scenery in the Eastern God's domain, a world unknown to the endless God's domains. It was still untamed and home to many ancient fantasy species. And what about that fantasy species which emerged from the sea, transforming from a huge fish into a black-winged bird soaring into the sky? What could it be? There was also another bird, somewhat resembling the Golden Crow Princess, with one side of its body being blue and the other side being red. It looked truly adorable. Wow, there's such a big 9-headed snake in the swamp, it looks like it's lazily sleeping. Of course, the strongest, most beautiful, and cutest one is the Golden Crow Princess by their side. She is like the sun in this world, bringing sunshine and more life to the world. And the person walking with her seems to be seen as the sun of this world too. In your eyes, this world is the scenery you see. In other people's eyes, you are also the scenery they see. As Yunxi touched the feathers of the Golden Crow Princess, he also transformed into a radiant sun, feeling the sensation of illuminating everything from above the 33rd heaven. This feeling is not bad at all, maybe one day he will fall in love with this feeling. To become the sun, there is such a future, he realized. May, come with me. The Golden Crow Princess transformed into a human form, shyly hugged Yunxi, and then kissed him. The blazing sun, which can burn mountains and boil the sea, has now turned into a soft blanket, allowing this couple to enjoy sweet moments together, very, very passionately. Opening his eyes, Yunxi woke up from the gentle affection of the Golden Crow Princess. It felt like there was still a lingering warmth of a girl's skin on his fingertips, and his gaze seemed dazed. In that moment, the future was within reach, and even the method to achieve it was crystal clear. All he needed to do was embrace the Golden Crow Princess and obtain her blood, sharing their lives together. Perhaps it was a special privilege as the bearer of the highest level White Lotus Secret Treasure imprint, but the White Lotus Secret Treasure even clearly deduced the method to realize this future. The success rate was over 90%, meaning that as long as he chose this path, he could definitely marry the Golden Crow Princess and become the sun. However, Yunxi felt that something was not quite right. It seemed like when Yunxi was flying together with the Golden Crow Princess in the 33 heavens, they could always feel someone watching them. "I am an honest person and cannot deceive a little girl," Yunxi said to convince himself, temporarily putting aside the future. Even if he wanted to take action, the Golden Crow Princess was still inside the egg, and no one knew when she would be hatched by the Great Queen Mother of the West. This road represents the possibility of living and flying together with the Golden Crow Princess. So what about the other roads? Yunxi wondered, filled with curiosity, and decided to try another one. This time, in front of him, appeared an endless golden desert. The sand in the desert, every grain was almost transparent golden, like crushed fragments of crystal. Do you know the meaning of Sand of Time? Cassina the battle god stretched lazily and pulled out the hourglass-shaped divine sword Sand of Time from behind her, smiling at her disciple. Is this the future, teacher Cassina the battle god? Chapter 979, Desert Romance, The True Power of Sand of Time. Yunxi looked around the vast golden desert with confusion. This kind of scenery doesn't exist in the real world. The sand, like crystal powder, gives off the scent of accumulated time. Countless golden grains of sand piled up, making the world resemble the dawn of a mythical era. From where Cassina the battle god and Yunxi stood, the entire world was filled with such scenery. What kind of swordsman do you think I am? Cassina the battle god smiled at Yunxi, sitting on a throne of sand with bare feet. Those incredibly long and beautiful legs, with their pale brown skin emitting a healthy and enticing color, just casually crossed together, made Yunxi's breathing quicken and his heart beat faster. Teacher. Are you a swordsman? Yunxi has always been curious. His teacher, Cassina, is clearly the strongest champion of the Battle Gods Championship contest, and recognized as the battle god of the endless gods' domains. So why has she never used her divine sword, the Sand of Time? Even when facing Shea Longness in battle, she has never drawn her sword from behind her back, instead relying on fists and kicks. Since becoming her disciple, Yunxi has never learned anything related to swords from her. However, the mysteries of rigid body and flexible body, including the battle god's seed planted in his own body, all carry Cassina the battle god's unique and powerful style. If it weren't for Cassina the battle god's reminder, Yunxi would have forgotten that his teacher is indeed a swordsman, and a legend at the pinnacle of swordsmanship in the Eastern God's domain and even the entire Endless God's domains, the Sky Sword. The Sand of Time, the Sky Sword, Cassina, that is her title. Yes, I do practice swordsmanship. But it's probably not the kind of sword you imagine. As my disciple, you also need to understand what kind of sword I cultivate. Yunxi perked up his ears. This was the secret that Cassina the battle god, his teacher in the battle god genre, had never touched in the real world. My divine sword, the Sand of Time, is an auxiliary sword. It is not a sword for direct combat. The true sword of the battle god genre is within ourselves. Now, you should be able to feel the true power of the seed in your body. Cassina the battle god snapped his fingers, and a burst of energy hit Yunxi in the stomach. The exact spot where Yunxi was hit was where Cassina the battle god had planted the battle god seed. Boom! The moment Yunxi was struck by Cassina the battle god's powerful finger, he felt a fiery flame erupt from his stomach and spread throughout his body. The power of his blood and energy was boiling. Yes, this is the feeling. He used the power of the Battle God Seed for the first time, releasing all the built-up strength and energy in one powerful burst, giving him the feeling of overpowering the fallen king of the ancient dragon world. At that moment, he experienced the true dominance of a strong body and the agility of a flexible body for the first time. In the recent trial in Crystal Creek Valley, he took it a step further by combining the power of a strong body and a flexible body. He developed a unique sword technique based on this physical ability, which allowed him to deflect and return all the projectiles with gigabit wings. When Cassina the Battle God pointed at the Battle God Seed in Yunshi's abdomen, it was fully awakened. Perhaps it was because they were in the White Lotus secret treasure world, but once the power was activated, it couldn't be controlled. An unimaginable surge of power erupted from the Battle God Seed, granting him greater strength, faster speed, and extraordinary reflexes beyond what Yunshi could have ever imagined. Not only that, but a massive flow of information also bursts out from the Battle God Seed, which is the next stage of training. Ha! Looks like you're learning well. Very energetic. Cassina the Battle God covered her mouth and looks at Yunshi with a playful expression as his vital energy bursts forth. Following her teacher's gaze, Yunshi has an embarrassed expression on his face. The side effects of this extraordinary burst of vital energy are several times stronger than usual. Something with a strong vital energy is standing tall, just like raising a flag. Expansion is normal, but this is where you need to start controlling it. Cassina the Battle God stretches lazily from her throne of debris, and stands up. Let me teach you the method of releasing the power of the Battle God Seed. The fusion of rigidity and flexibility is the basic requirement for using the Sand of Time sword. Only by achieving this step can you truly see the door to the legend rank. Yunshi didn't even have time to react when he was punched in the stomach. He curled up like a shrimp, and his own teacher sent him flying into the sky. Feel the spinning of the 18 levels of hell, said Cassina the Battle God, as he began to teach his disciples step by step. Cassina's eyes were serious, and his movements were very quick. Yunshi didn't have a chance to resist. His teacher locked his hands and feet with joint techniques, and then spiraled downwards towards the ground. It was a true acceleration into the clouds. In the blink of an eye, Cassina the Battle God hit Yunshi, sent him flying, and then restrained him in midair. It happened so quickly. The once lively Yunshi was now captured. Boom! Yunshi was slammed into the ground by Cassina the Battle God's throwing technique. He felt like the world was spinning, as if the whole golden desert had turned into a vast whirlpool of shifting sands. Look, this is how the river of time looks. No living creature can ever go back in time. What has happened has already happened, and what has ended has already ended. Even death is insignificant in the eternal river of time. At no time is it permitted to challenge the taboo of reversing time. Anyone who does so, even gods, will disappear into the river and be forgotten. Yunshi, who was thrown into the sea of quicksand, was floating involuntarily with the surrounding sand particles. Sometimes slow, sometimes fast, sometimes still. Can you feel it? This is the magic of the Sand of Time. We cannot go back to the past, but we can control the present and observe the future. If we think of our bodies as swords, the origin of the sword will not change, but the materials themselves are constantly changing, and there can be countless different states. Countless coincidences combine to create miracles. However, a normal human body cannot withstand such changes from the Sand of Time. In order to adapt to the power of the Sand of Time, you must change your own stance. Chapter 980, Waiting for You to Grow Up. Is this world the Sand of Time? Yunshi was washed and swept away by countless golden granules, rolling forward in a seemingly endless river. Every second, this river would fork into one branch after another. Every second, streams from unknown sources would converge into this river of time. The soft golden granules were not rough or prickly at all, and when they were washed away, it seemed that something inside the body also disappeared along with everything else. Suddenly, the river came to a halt. That was because a voice, a will, appeared. Time, stop. No one can truly stop the time of the world, but it is possible to do so within a certain area, within a very small range. At this moment, it was Yunshi's mentor, Cassina the battle god, who stopped the pebbles of this river of time. When time was frozen, the golden pebbles that were constantly moving forward around Yunshi suddenly lost all their weight and became like pure nothingness. In the frozen river of time, Yunshi began to sink quickly. Really, very fast. In just the blink of an eye, Yunshi sank to the lower region of the river of time. Compared to the constantly flowing upper region, this place seemed particularly empty and quiet, perhaps because time had temporarily been stopped, causing the entire bottom scenery to freeze. As Yunshi fell, gently touching the scattered pebbles around him, his thoughts became calm. In a quiet world, everything seemed to have vanished, and only the sound of our own heartbeat and the flow of blood could be heard. And even in a world where time stood still, the battle god seed sprouted with a powerful force, releasing a huge amount of energy. It seemed like something was slowly awakening. The seed planted by Cassina the battle god, after being washed by the sands of time, is now sprouting and growing. In the blur, Yunshi saw a sword. It was a sword similar to the star wings, but with slight differences in the details. The existence of this sword was the most vibrant color in this silent world. Do you see the sword in your heart? That is a sword forged by the sand of time specifically for you. When you draw this sword, it will be the moment you inherit the true teachings of the battle god genre. The voice of Cassina the battle god continued to echo in Yunshi's, man's, ears, and then the frozen river of time suddenly thawed. Time, flow on. The stopped time might have just been a little while, only a few heartbeats. But when time started flowing again, it instantly became thousands of years. Amidst countless golden lights, an unknown divine sword burst out from the depths of the river of time. Here, try your sword, said Cassina the battle god, raising his long right leg and giving Yunshi a spinning kick. Yunshi's figure appeared blurry and elusive, like a ghost, as he dodged Cassina the battle god's attack. In this brief clash, which lasted thousands of times in the scale of time, the outcome would be like this if presented in a list. Cassina the battle god took the first strike, locked onto his opponent, activated his inescapable ability, and chose a future where he would definitely hit Yunshi. Yunshi launched a defensive counterattack, determining that this strike was inescapable within a certain range. He entered a brief invincible state, nullifying the opponent's attack, and then counterattacked. Both sides constantly adjusted their strategies and techniques in different time scales. By the time they actually faced each other, they had already made thousands of choices, attacks, defenses, and counterattacks. Raising his right hand high and pressing his left hand on the ground, Yunshi directly imitated the technique of Cassina the battle god, which he had only seen once before. The magnificence of Sky Dance, one of Cassina the battle god's most advanced techniques, combines the power of humans and gods. Even the mighty Shaolongness the Sky Sword was forced to the ground by this move. This technique requires an extraordinary level of physical abilities. Back then, Yunshi had the support of the entire world's will as the water god, and with the blood blessing from Hydra the water god, he barely reached the minimum requirements to use this move. Without the absolute advantage of the water god's world, and unable to enter Hydra's nine-tailed mode, Yunshi, even though he remembered this move perfectly, couldn't use it at all. Just like Yunhai's quadrant sword, the sky-flying sword is a move from the divine field. Watching her talented student, Cassina the battle god smiled with joy and took the exact same starting stance as Yunshi. At almost the same time, in the same position, they soared into the sky. Yunshi's right hand, and Cassina the battle god's right hand, both grabbed each other's shoulders. After countless choices in the river of time, this was the decision they made together. Unity of heaven and humanity. Absorbing the energy of the heavens and earth, sealing the opponent's vitality. Even Sheolongness, with her godlike body, was once bound by this move and unable to move. Even Cassina the battle god was curious about the same move, the magnificence of sky dance, being used by both sides at the same time. What would be the result when they locked onto each other? Now, the answer had come. Unity of heaven and humanity against unity of heaven and humanity. The magnificence of sky dance against the magnificence of sky dance. Neither could overpower the other, because both had entered that state. The result of using this move was a beautiful dance together in the sky. Two graceful figures danced together in the sky, forming a bridge that connected the heavens and the earth. The powerful energy of the universe resonated between their bodies. The essence of the magnificence of sky dance was the ability to suppress any outsiders with the coordinated power of the world. It represented the state of harmony between heaven and man. With the magnificence of sky dance, both sides entered a world where they could feel the resonance of the heavens and the earth, and understand each other's essence. Even Cassina the battle god himself couldn't believe how wonderful this feeling was. Just the touch of their fingertips brought their minds together, like a seamless blend of water and milk. 1,000 years of time was not wasted. It was worth it, to see you grow up, Cassina the battle god said, looking at the divine sword forged from the river of time and millennia, with satisfaction written all over his face. Teacher, it wasn't necessary to imprison me in the river of time for thousands of years. Yunshi said, with a headache, watching Cassina the battle god teach his disciple in an unconventional way. The way to forge the divine sword is indeed correct, and its power is truly astonishing. But what is the teaching method that requires you to wait for 1,000 years, until you grow up to become the sword? Isn't it interesting to wait for the green fruit to ripen for 1,000 years, and then enjoy it? Now, you can be considered a qualified heir of the battle god genre. I have been waiting for you to grow up. Cassina the battle god tilted his head, wearing an adorable expression of, what's wrong with that? Chapter 981. 1,000 years later, after waiting for 1,000 years, she wanted to see how Yunshi had grown. Teacher Cassina, is your sense of time a little off? Yunshi, who had been immersed in the river of time, experienced the passing of endless ages. They could only be an observer of history. Those 1,000 years were truly 1,000 years, not a single year less. If the future shown by the White Lotus secret treasure is correct, once Yunshi reaches hero ranked, Teacher Cassina the battle god will capture them and throw them into the river of time. Some of Yunshi's elder martial sisters are still lost in the river of time and haven't returned. Yunshi even had several encounters with them in that river, even though they had never met before. It is hard to describe how it feels to be trapped in the river of time, the sand of time. Even the White Lotus secret treasure could not fully capture its essence. So, what Yunshi felt was only a tiny part of the thousands of years. For Yunshi, who is only 16 years old, those thousands of years were too heavy, like an unbearable vanishing of life. A regular hero-ranked person, once entering the river of time, would not be able to survive, let alone endure the time freezing and acceleration from Cassina the battle god. The stillness of time, as if all things in the world have lost their brilliance in the end of the sand of time. The flowing of time, like being swept into an uncontrollable storm, unable to distinguish whether it is in the past, present, or future. Even now, Yunshi still does not understand how he came back from that river of time. 1,000 years, in a blink of an eye. 1,000 years in this very moment. Just like the path of Sunwalker, when Yunshi noticed, the magnificence of sky dance had already started, and he was dancing in the sky with Cassina the battle god. Don't resist the taste of time, it's a gift from the past. Just 1,000 years, and you can come out from there, proving that you have the best talent. My other lovely disciples took an average of 1,800 years to come out from there. Cassina the battle god guided Yunxi's movements, sometimes spinning around, sometimes standing side by side. Yunxi could smell the scent on himself, a scent that didn't belong to the mortal world, but the essence of the sand of time from stepping into the river of time. Even though his body was still 16 years old, his soul and will had transformed from thousands of years of history. That was not just a hero-ranked soul, but something more noble, closer to eternity. Immersed in the sands of time for thousands of years, the ancient times opened a door to an unknown and mysterious world for Yunxi, and paved the way for him after obtaining the battle god seed. That path leads to ultimate brilliance and glory, everlasting and never fading. I don't understand why me. Yunxi always felt like he had experienced so much during those 1,000 years, but couldn't recall what exactly those things were. Vague memories, like a dream after 1,000 years, made the real world seem unfamiliar. Because it's you, that's why it works. I don't just choose anyone to be my disciple. Cassina the battle god leaned in close to Yunxi's black hair, tying it into a big braid, an expression of satisfaction on his face. In this moment, Yunxi shed all traces of a mortal, to the point where he couldn't even be described as human. This is exactly what Cassina the battle god aims for. Only those who can master both strength and flexibility are qualified to inherit the power of the battle god. The other disciples are still far behind in this aspect. They are taking a similar path as her at the beginning, pushing their flexibility to the limit and then discovering the secrets of strength. Eventually, they will achieve a balance between strength and flexibility. This is the biggest challenge in mastering the battle god genre, and Yunxi, right from the beginning, has accomplished it. That is why she implanted the battle god seed into his body without hesitation. After it sprouted, she threw him into the flowing river of time, the sand of time. 1,000 years, so long. Yunxi's gaze became distant. His path is completely different from that of Sunwalker. He has only experienced a glimpse of it during the deduction in the White Lotus secret treasure, but he noticed a significant change in his aura. Is the person he is now the same as the person he was before entering the river of time? At this moment, the power surging within him is almost as strong as Cassina the battle god's power. But where did it come from? In the river of time, over thousands of years, what did he see and encounter, to master such astounding power? He not only mastered Cassina the battle god seed, but also Hua was the sky-flying sword, and even the most difficult Yunhai's quadrant sword. Besides the unpredictable star wings, with the advantage of 1,000 years of time, he has almost perfected all the abilities he can cultivate. After 1,000 years, he has become so powerful that he easily surpassed the legend rank. However, he doesn't understand the true power of his legend rank. The river of time, like the ultimate shortcut, allowed him to possess the power that would belong to him in 1,000 years. But it also caused him to lose many things. In those vanished thousands of years, what did he gain and what did he lose? Not understanding, Yunxi was only 16 years old, and 1,000 years seemed too long for him. Most hero-ranked beings could never live for 1,000 years, which meant that if he were thrown into the river of time and came back, everything he was familiar with could be gone. The girls of the Starwings Knights, as well as his childhood friends in the town, probably couldn't live through this much time. But Hua was different. With her power surpassing the world, even 1,000 years could not diminish her shine. She would even shine brighter at the peak of the endless god's domains. Only beings with the eternal attribute could emerge from the sands of time. His teacher, Cassina the battle god, was naturally such a person. The twin witches and Hua were also like this. Yunxi was surprised to find that his companion, Pafu, had also endured the test of the river of time and survived for thousands of years to stay with him. Pafu was the only living being he had brought out from the river of time. Not used to it, huh? But that's the reality, said Cassina the battle god. As someone who has reached the legend rank, you will eventually have to part ways with those you know, Cassina continued gently stroking Yunshi's hair. When you enter the realm of legends, the mortal world will gradually fade away from you. Chapter 982, The Intoxicating Taste. Legends represent eternity. Even as civilizations rise and fall, and the world undergoes changes, mythical stories that become legends never fade away. As long as intelligent beings exist, legends will continue to be passed down, becoming everlasting. Having just emerged from the river of time, Yunshi felt the sense of alienation that comes with reaching the legend rank. It was a feeling of loneliness that was almost like being cut off from the world. Did teacher Cassina the battle god realize how fragile and small the world is? Compared to the endless river of time, the White Lotus Sword domain is just a tiny grain of sand, and even the entire Sky Sword God's domain is just a small section in the long river of time. Only legends are eternal. Similarly, only through legends can one become someone who is sought after by legends. No matter how powerful a hero is, they will eventually die someday. Only legends remain eternal, sung by countless wise races, becoming history, becoming a symbol, becoming forever. Humans who cannot reach the legend rank cannot capture the attention of Cassina the battle god. The minimum criteria for her disciples is to have the potential to reach the legend rank. Only after truly achieving the legend rank, can Yunshi truly qualify to be with Cassina the battle god. Well, in various senses. Teacher, why did I lose so many memories? Yunshi had a faint mist in his eyes, as forgotten memories from thousands of years ago started to resurface. He couldn't remember, even though there was something very important. But he couldn't recall it anymore. Forgetting is the right thing to do. Even gods have moments when they want to forget. Not being able to forget is the greatest sorrow. We actually can't forget. You've just lost your way temporarily in the river of time, forgetting the direction to move forward. But that doesn't matter. Cassina the battle god combed Yunshi's hair and slowly taught him the truths that only someone of the legend rank can feel. Humans, in fact, never truly forget anything. There are just too many unnecessary memories that get hidden away. In the river of time, what you see is your own story, a story that has lasted for thousands of years. Awakening from the story, you realize that you have become a legend, a forever part of the tale. One day, you will regain the memories lost in the river of time, the unique moments that belong only to you. Yunshi, who didn't quite understand, looked at Cassina the battle god with gentle treatment. That soft and captivating demeanor made his heavy heart come alive again. Boom! 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 As if connected telepathically like the magnificence of sky dance, Yunshi naturally reached out and touched Cassina the battle god's cheek. This intimate gesture was unimaginable for him, who used to worship Cassina the battle god like a deity. Humans cannot touch divine beings, even if they are right in front of you, within reach. In Yunshi's eyes, Cassina the battle god was like a powerful deity, always above him. Even in the moments when they practiced the basic moves of the battle god genre and their skin touched, it felt incredibly distant from him. Beneath Cassina's slender and beautiful body, there was hidden a power strong enough to shatter the stars, a power that he could never reach. Only other gods could touch the power of gods. Now, having reached the legend rank in the river of time, Yunshi finally had the qualification to touch his own deity. You really are a disciple who loves taking advantage, but this time I'll allow it, Cassina the battle god said, though they seemed as content as a leopard sunbathing on the African savanna, letting Yunshi touch their smooth skin. That lazy and adorable appearance truly made them irresistible, like a dangerous big cat. Yunshi, a man from the past, used to be as timid as a trembling little bunny in front of this terrifying big cat. But now, he has evolved into a fierce member of the cat family. It should be fine to be a little affectionate with him. The scent on his fingertips was filled with vibrant vitality that even the sands of time couldn't erode. The infinite power was unimaginable without personal contact. For a moment, Yunxi, feeling a bit proud and satisfied, suddenly realized the great difference between the two sides. Even though both are fierce members of the cat family, if Casina the battle god, his own teacher, is the lazy sunbathing leopard, then Yunxi is only at the level of a British shorthair cat. The difference is so immense when it comes to the cat family. To celebrate you becoming my most outstanding disciple, shall we have a little celebration? Casina the battle god let Yunxi touch his body and looked at him with a smirk. Hydra told me that you have good wine here. That belongs to Hydra. Yunxi blushed like a criminal caught at the scene of a crime, feeling completely ashamed. 3 cups, just 3 cups, and I'll forgive you. Casina the battle god licked their lips, looking at Yunxi expectantly, with a hint of hesitation in their voice. After some hesitation, Yunxi made a wrong choice. He took out Hydra's cup and poured out the exquisite wine from it. Fantastic! My adorable disciple, you really did it. Casina the battle god cheered and snatched Yunxi's cup away. Gulping. With a sound, the small cup was empty in an instant, and Casina the battle god's eyes became cloudy. Yunxi's heart skipped a beat, vaguely sensing that he had made a massive mistake. Gulping. 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 One after another, the sound of clinking cups, Casina the battle god became more and more sober, but there was a burning flame in their eyes, growing hotter and hotter. She looked at Yunxi's eyes, dangerous, very dangerous, like a leopard basking in the sun on the African savanna, looking at a harmless little rabbit. Well, now it was the eyes of a British shorthair blue cat. Although they were both members of the cat family, when a leopard wanted to prey, it didn't matter what kind of animal the other party was. When it wanted to eat, it would eat. When it wanted to drink, it would drink. When it wanted to dance, it would dance. When it wanted, it would naturally be in a happy and clean state. Compared to the fruit she had eaten before, this one was indeed extra tender and juicy. It was truly a perfect example of her careful cultivation, from being green and immature to mature. Teacher Casina. Before Yunxi could finish speaking, his lips were sealed by something hot and soft. The scent of Hydra's divine wine slowly spread, from the lips to the chest, and then throughout the body. That was the taste belonging to Casina the battle god. Chapter 983, The Radiance of the Star Wings. In the midst of their entangled bodies, Yunxi, a man with a bewildered expression, looked up at the constantly flashing scenes in the sky. Being with Casina the battle god made it difficult to keep track of time. Just how long have the two of them spent in this golden desert? Both of them belonged to the legendary rank and possessed the power of the battle god seed. The overwhelming sense of physical and mental resonance was so captivating that it was impossible to break free from it. For Yunxi, Casina the battle god's body was like a more intoxicating poison than Hydra's venomous wine. Drinking it would make one forget all their dreams. Once an existence akin to a god, now she was by his side, and her slender and beautiful legs showcased the characteristics of a supple body, firmly holding him in place. The two of them spent a very exciting time together, like a joyful battle. Casina the battle god had a strong and gentle nature. When he was gentle, he was as soft as water, and when he was strong, he was like a blazing fire. Yunxi couldn't remember how much happiness he gained during this time. This is truly a promising future. Returning to the path of predicting the future in the White Lotus secret treasure, Yunxi stared blankly at the future he had just entered. The cost is 1,000 years. Teacher Casina the battle god, you really planned this carefully. Yunshi never expected that the battle god seed planted by Cassina the battle god in his body would have such an effect. As long as he officially breaks through to the hero ranked, Cassina the battle god should arrive as promised and throw him into the golden river of time formed by the sand of time, waiting for him to grow after 1,000 years. For anyone, this is a great opportunity, you could even say it's a dream come true. By just sacrificing 1,000 years of time, there is hope to enter the legend rank. This opportunity is even rarer than the appearance of the White Lotus secret treasure. Yunshi doesn't know what kind of sacrifice Cassina the battle god has to make, but it's easy to imagine that 1,000 years of time in the river of time is not given away for no reason. Even as a legend rank Cassina the battle god, it probably takes a lot of sacrifice to make the river of time accept a life that doesn't belong there. It can be said that after understanding Cassina the battle god's way of teaching, Yunshi is very grateful to this teacher who always seems lazy. Not all teachers are willing to put in so much effort for their students. This future can be said to be full of hope, and in a certain sense, even clearer and more understandable than Sunwalker's path. By sacrificing thousands of years, one can almost certainly obtain the power of the legendary rank. The Sky-Flying Sword. Yunhai's Quadrant Sword. All of the sword techniques that Yunshi practiced could enter a godlike field. He mastered the divine technique called the Magnificence of Sky Dance. Finally, he could spend time with his own teacher Cassina the battle god in a hot and exciting way. No matter how he thought about it, it was a future close to perfection, planned by his teacher Cassina the battle god, becoming the true successor of the battle god genre. However, the cost he had to pay made Yunshi hesitate. Thousands of years, for someone who was only 16 years old, were really too heavy. Even until now, he still remembered the vague and deep sadness he felt after leaving the river of time. The passage of thousands of years, even if it was just a simulation of the White Lotus secret treasure, made Yunshi feel the sorrow of time passing by swiftly. It was a sense of age and experience etched into his soul. Before entering the river of time, he, in his current stage, felt lost and anxious, with the dreams of 16-year-old Yunshi. After leaving the river of time, he became more mature than his present self, but also more melancholic. If it wasn't for this price, how good would it be? Getting something always means losing something, the principle of equal exchange always applies. Yunshi saw his future self, thousands of years from now, but that self felt unfamiliar and left him at a loss. Just like the future where he becomes Sunwalker and the Golden Crow Princess, the future with teacher Cassina the battle god is within reach, as if it will happen in the not-too-distant future. Cassina the battle god is waiting not for him in the present, but for his future self who will step into the legend rank thousands of years later. And there are other futures. After seeing his future twice, one as the Sunwalker and the other as the Cassina the battle god, Yunshi had a clearer understanding of the future predicted by the White Lotus secret treasure. These futures have a high possibility of happening, so the version of himself appearing in the future is very likely to be another one. With his wings burning in golden red, Sunwalker flew together with the Golden Crow Princess in the heavens above the 33 realms. Stepping into the river of time, mastering the battle skills of the battle god, Yunshi embarked on a legendary path, just like Cassina the battle god. The future is not set in stone, a small detail can often lead to different landscapes. This time, the future that Yunshi touched had an exceptionally dazzling radiance. It wasn't just one star, but 2, 3, 4 stars. A future woven together by countless dazzling stars that made one's eyes dazzled. As Yunshi touched this moment of the future, he understood whose future it was. To be precise, it was their future. The sky was filled with countless stars, shining brightly. Each star was a scenery for Yunshi. They were all a part of his future. This future belonged to the Starwings Knights. May, what are you daydreaming about? Hua Yu, wearing platinum rose armor, holding a sacred cross-shaped shield, and wearing a crown on her forehead, looked at Yunxi with a confused expression. Behind her, a platinum rose flag adorned with the Starwings emblem was fluttering in the wind. Beside the two of them, there was an army of over 3,000 people. The leader of the Starwings Knights, Hua Yu, the vice leader, Xiao Chao, the secretary, Ling Ling, the treasurer, Mei Lan, along with the members of the Night and Magic Squad, Robin, Mumu, and Yunxi, were all gathered together. Not only that, but there were also many, many faces that Yunxi didn't recognize. Those creatures with long, pointed ears are the superior race from the faraway Western God's domain, the fairy race. The girls with horns on their foreheads and long tails behind them are the companions of the dragon race, the half-dragon people. In the sky, there were even real dragons flying. Not just one, but some members of the Starwings Knights that Yunxi knew became Dragon Knights. This is a diverse army made up of multiple races, from the swordsmen from the Eastern God's domain to the dragon riders from the Western God's domain, and even rare beings like Lamia and Merfolk. Without exception, they are all beautiful and lovely women, many of whom are part of Yunxi, the man's, Million Bride army, and there are many, many faces that Yunxi doesn't know yet. The only thing they have in common is that their bodies all have Yunxi's seeds, which are life seeds planted with the power of the stars. And from what Yunxi can feel, there are many more connections than just these. Report: the 2nd and 3rd squadrons have launched an encirclement from the east and west. Report: the 7th Aerial Magic Knight Squadron, Gigabit Wings, has shot down the enemy's air combat corps. The Special Operations Magic Team is destroying the enemy's 3rd stronghold. The 4th Spiral Forbidden Curse is being activated and is expected to be completed in 1 hour. While Yunxi was lost in thought, various commands flowed like snowflakes to Hua Yu, who was in the center of the Starwings Knights. Keep attacking, don't stop. Gigabit Wings, switch to ground attack and prevent the enemy from taking off again. After the Special Operations Magic Team completes their mission, they will rest for an hour and then continue preparing for the Spiral Forbidden Curse. Hua Yu, a young woman, gave one command after another. She had grown from being a noble lady to becoming the true leader of the Starwings Knights. However, she didn't choose to lead her family's Holy Knight group. Instead, she chose the Starwings Knights. Once just a small knight group gathered together because of Omei's black hair, they had now become a legendary force that shook the entire night sky. Now, the Starwings Knights carried a glory and brilliance that humans couldn't even imagine. They were currently fighting against a terrifying army that made the entire Endless Gods domains tremble. It was led by an exotic insect princess and consisted of billions of insect soldiers. Wherever their insect wings flew, everything turned into food. Plants, animals, and even entire planets. There is nothing that the swarm cannot devour. The sun demon insects, with their long purplish-black tentacles, can even use the sun as their breeding ground and reproduce in overwhelming numbers. The number of units in the battle between the two sides reached a despairing ratio of tens of thousands to 1. On average, one member of the Starwings Knights had to face tens of thousands of insects. Any other Knight Order in the Endless Gods domains would have already collapsed in such a dire situation. Only the Starwings Knights managed to hold their line steadily, and occasionally even pushed back the enemy. Such miracles can only be created by the Starwings Knights. Because the Starwings Knights are a completely integrated super race mixed army. Here, they possess tactical abilities that no regular Knight Order in the Endless Gods domains can achieve. All members of the Knight Order coordinate with absolute harmony. Never have they betrayed, fought over power, or even had logistics disputes. The Starwings Knights can maintain full combat effectiveness in any harsh environment, even in situations where supplies are completely lost. Well, mainly because they have maize bread, an incredible strategic supply. No matter how tired or weary they may be, as long as they can eat bread made by Mei herself, they can immediately regain their energy and continue fighting. Why haven't you surrendered yet? You clearly have no chance of winning. From the other side of the starry sky came the confusion of the insect princess who invaded. The army of demon worms she leads are natural enemies of the sun. The terrifying sun demon insects, with their purple-black long tentacles, can only hatch and survive by feeding on the sun. A swarm of insects that can devour even the sun brings deep despair to humanity. In God's domain, where the sunlight has been lost, often before the insect army even lands, complete collapse has already taken place. Because we have our own sun. As long as the sun in our hearts remains, you won't be able to cross this battle line. In the sky, dozens of retro-looking fighter jets with quantum radiance flew by. They resembled old-fashioned propeller planes. However, these fighter jets were equipped with real star quantum computers, each possessing the power of quantum jumps, allowing them to engage in space battles. In addition to the unexpected star quantum computers, they also carried the unique gigabit wings system of the endless gods domains. Faced with the overwhelming barrage of attacks from the insect swarm that brought despair, other cutting-edge weapons from the mechanist gods domain could only escape in a panic. These fighter jets, on the other hand, would always charge forward fearlessly, enduring the despair-inducing multiple barrage attacks. Next, it was a glorious moment for gigabit wings. No matter how many bullets were fired at them, these planes would absorb them all and then return them. The swarms of insects that were destroyed by their own bullets would even drop countless gems, just like the scenery Yunshi saw in Crystal Creek Valley. Why won't you become mine? Resisting is meaningless. The will of the insect princess cannot be defied. More and more dense swarms of insects fly from the other side of the starry sky, crossing the vastness of space, launching fearless attacks on the endless gods' domains. Even though the Starwings Knights obliterate wave after wave of insect armies, there will always be more swarms coming to replenish the front lines. This is the great terror of conquering the stars, the power of the insect princess that makes the endless gods' domains tremble. Each insect princess, who embarks on a journey to conquer the stars with their own independent swarms, is a nightmare for beings with endless wisdom. Those creatures with long purple-black tentacles, carrying incomplete light furnaces in their bodies, are some of the most terrifying ultimate warriors in the universe, capable of destroying entire worlds. What's even scarier is that these terrifying warriors can be mass-produced. All they need is a suitable sun as an incubator, and the number of sun demon insects can be counted in hundreds or thousands. When they gather together and release beams of sunlight, they can even turn a planet into dust in an instant. As such demon worms. A bead of sweat dripped down Yunshi's forehead. No matter how you looked at it, those demon worms seemed to have some inexplicable connection to him. Even the voice of the insect princess, which came from the distant stars, had a sense of familiarity. That aloofness and arrogance, that willingness to invade the entire order of the endless gods' domains for their own desires, challenging the will of the universe with their own strength. It must be a mistake, he has never encountered such a scary insect princess before. Chapter 984. The Showdown of the Aces. The insect army sent out their most powerful troops, the sun demon insects, with a force of over 3,000. Each sun demon insect that landed on the ground had the power to destroy the world, like a weakened version of the Sunwalker. This troop doesn't actually exist in the insect army's hierarchy, it is a special unit exclusive to the insect princess. Wherever its purplish-black long whiskers swept, everything turned to dust. And when more than 10 sun demon insects gathered, they could unleash an attack called Black Particle, which could directly destroy a standard-sized planet. Facing the enemy's strongest unit, the Starwings Knights also sent out their own ace. In the midst of a long dragon roar, a gigantic creature as big as the stars slowly leapt out from behind the Starwings Knights. What is that? Yunshi looked at the massive war tool surrounded by countless dragon roars. He had no idea that the Starwings Knights had such an ultimate weapon. 1, 2, 3. Countless void beetles were released from this enormous creature, while one after another, the most powerful intelligent creatures from the endless gods' domains soared into the sky. This was a dragon's nest, the ultimate battle tool of the endless gods' domains, the highest mystery from the godly dragon's domain. Legend had it that with just one dragon's nest, they could annihilate a divine realm. The color of this dragon's nest was sacred silver. Yunshi had caught a glimpse of a white holy dragon, whose true name was Mumu Narabel, the sacred dragon of Asha. Asha's apostle. Is this enormous dragon nest the ultimate weapon she built? Upon careful observation, Yunshi discovered a large population of wind-sailed jellyfish residing in the water god's world on top of this silver-white dragon nest. Occasionally, he would even catch glimpses of the dance of the dark butterflies. So, this really is the war fortress belonging to the Starwings Knights. To think that the Starwings Knights, still so weak now, would possess such immense potential in the future, even capable of single-handedly resisting the army of insect princesses crossing the starry sky. Roar, roar, roar. Dog, dog, dog. In the endless void, the battle ignited the entire night sky in an instant. Both sides, unleashing their ultimate cards, engaged in an intense long-range bombardment battle with the Sun Demon insect army at the core on one side, while continuously releasing war dragons to forcefully advance towards the enemy front on the other side. In the battle between Mechanist God's Domain and Sun Demon Insect, the tactics used were like a showdown between a heavy battleship with super cannons and a space carrier with countless fighter jets, back in a war era. Sometimes, black particles would strike the dragon's nest, creating a horrifying black cave. Other times, a fast-moving white dragon would dive into the camp of the Sun Demon insects and unleash waves of dragon roars, crushing the insects into dust. The dragon's nest itself had a terrifying ability to heal. Thanks to the hard work of the jellyfish-like creatures called wind sailors, the wounds caused by the attacks would quickly be repaired. The Sun Demon insects were fearless insect soldiers who were willing to risk their lives. Even if a few of them were killed by the dragon roar waves, new units of Sun Demon insects would quickly be replenished from behind. The shining light of gigabit wings occasionally sparkles in the night sky, which has become a battlefield at the level of gods. And the flag of the Starwings Knights still shines on this level of battlefield. With only the size of a single Knight Order, and not even a large Knight Order with hundreds of thousands of members, they managed to resist the invasion of the ultimate insect troops. The image transmitted by the planet's quantum computer group to the endless gods' domains has shocked countless people. The name of the Starwings Knights echoes through the stars. Their future can actually be so glorious. Yunshi had the boldest imagination about the Starwings Knights, which was just a small Knight Order located in the remote god's domain. Currently, the Starwings Knights, along with the newly joined Robin, the Knight and Magic team, only has a little over 40 people. Even if Huayu, as the leader of the Starwings Knights, expands the size of the group, the most she can do is recruit the potential young ladies from influential families in the White Lotus Sword Palace. With Yunshi's limited imagination, he feels that having around 100 members in the Starwings Knights is already the maximum. Until he breaks through the hero rank limit, there are only a limited number of seeds he can use. It wasn't until White Lotus' secret treasure showed him this future that he could have imagined the Starwings Knights growing to this size and level. Not only did the number of members increase to the point where they had to establish a second and third division, but they also formed the Gigabit Wings, an air magic cavalry unit centered around the planetary quantum computers. Finally, they even built the ultimate war fortress called the Dragon's Nest in the Endless Gods domains. Looking at the future composition of the Starwings Knights, this small group has transcended the boundaries of civilization, forming a diverse army with members from different races. Yunshi saw various members in the close guard battalion of Huayu, a woman. Among them were fairies, half-dragon people, giants, dark fairies, lamia, mermaids, and even girls with demonic appearances. Without exception, the Starwings Knights only accepted female members into their ranks. Judging from this terrifying number, the seeds he had sent out must have numbered in the thousands long ago. In this future, the connections between the seeds planted on himself seemed to be even more intricate than a spider web. What happened for this small group of only a few dozen people to become a legendary legion capable of conquering the endless gods' domains in the starry sky? Huayu. Yunxi looked at the blooming platinum rose beside him with a complex gaze. On her body, there was also the aura of the legend rank, and the platinum crown on her head made her appear as noble as a queen. "May, this time, I will definitely protect you," Huayu said as she lifted her platinum cross sword, her eyes filled with unprecedented seriousness. "The tragedy that happened back then will never happen again. It is because of you that we have gained the power and courage we have now. We fight for May." At first, it was only Huayu's voice, but soon, it spread like a terrifying virus. "We fight for May. 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 In this future, am I?" Yunxi looked at himself still wearing the black maid uniform, and his head suddenly started to hurt. Why is it May instead of his real name, Yunxi? Does he have to wear this black maid uniform even in the future's interstellar war? This is just too embarrassing. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.